thank you again for listening to us, the History Boys. I am Christopher Wheaton, History Boy, feeling a lot better today than yesterday after Tyler's birthday party.
Nice.
And I am Tyler Armentrout, History Boy.
What?
I am back. I am now currently the sleepiest History Boy, but I'm also the only History Boy who's fully awake because while I've been away, really went down the rabbit hole looking at a lot of websites that have been telling me about the truth. And the best thing about being a dad is that people, you do the hardest job in the world, so people are inclined to listen to your more outrageous theories. For instance, I'm just going to let you guys put together the pieces. But, okay, we got the McDonald's fry kids, right?
Yeah.
9/11.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just a taste. You guys can just come to your own conclusions. I'm giving you the puzzle pieces.
This is a QAnon thing.
Oh, no.
Well, to me, not.
Well, a QAnon,
I'm trying
just throwing things out there and expecting people to make arbitrary connections.
And all I'm saying is that I have a lot more McDonald's land related conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason why Ronald and the gang aren't, they're not there anymore. And maybe they kind of backburnered them so they could, bring in new demographics, or maybe...
Do you think they were Nazi sympathizers? Or?
Yeah.
I think not only were they Nazi sympathizers, I think that they were, I would say a baker's dozen of the 9/11 hijackers.
Yeah. the fry kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Them on a plane.
And the Grimace, Mary McCheese, definitely the
The thing I
hamburger.
really want to ask is why, on 9/11, why wasn't Mayor McCheese in his office?
Does he have an office on...
Anyway.
Inside the Trade Center? Is that it?
Who else is here?
I am Zach the Glue Sniffer Mech. History Boy. Just History Boy, driving boy.
Driving?
Yeah,
Oh, he's a driver.
Just driving.
Yeah. Listen to some...
Me and my true love, the open road.
Nice.
Just driving until you fucking fall asleep in traffic.
Sniffing glue and huffing gas. That's
There you go.
That's the whole reason why I do this job.
Well, we do pay you in glue and gas.
Yes,
That's all he has.
Yeah.
So,
But we mix them together.
yeah.
So it makes it so he can't run his car on it.
No.
Because we put glue in the gas.
He's got to trade it,
Yeah.
as well as get high on his own supply.
Exactly.
He's going to trade it for favors.
He did, when we first started hanging out with him, and we were like, "Do you want to do a podcast with us?" He was like, "It's either going to be ass, grass, or gas." And we were like, "Well, we got gas, but it's mixed up with glue." And he's like, "That's great because it's so hard to huff ass."
It's true.
Doesn't get high unless it's a cat.
It really, really... you guys should have been sketched out with the fact that you picked me up at a truck stop.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
like...
I wasn't sketched out. I was just like, he'll do.
You should have seen the shady fucking place.
Bring him to me.
Bring him to me.
You should have seen the shady fucking place we found Andrew at.
No, God. We don't even talk about that place.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we dropped him back off.
Yeah. They're having his way with him.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
And I am Jerry Nash, History Boy. This will be our last spooky episode for spooky season.
I am a light with fright.
Yeah.
I've been listening from home, and I've been terrified.
Yeah.
Mostly that Andrew would replace me all the way down the road. I mean,
we thought about it.
Yeah, I mean,
There were a couple talks.
you guys were doing real well without me, and not to mention, I guess he's been trying to replace other parts of my I pretended to be asleep while he snuck into my bedroom the other night. And he fit into my gold jeans, like, really nice, so I gotta ask him, like, what his measurements are, so I know exactly how much weight I need to lose to fit into them. And then he just rocked my son to sleep, and it was great, because me and Eva, like, have really needed the sleep lately. That kid keeps us
That
up
was
all
nice of
night.
him.
Yeah, it was super nice, yeah.
You should probably thank him. Give him a
I
card or
should.
something.
Yeah.
That's very...
Yeah, Hallmark card.
Yeah.
You just write your name at the bottom.
Yeah, just thank you. Happy birthday.
That's it. That's all you do. It costs, what, $1? I don't know how much cards are.
It is if you get them at Trader Joe's.
You can get them anywhere.
Yeah.
Not for the low prices at Trader Joe's.
This week we are talking about the Essex.
Oh.
You
I've
guys
been
ever
there.
heard this story? No, we're not talking about the place.
Oh.
It's in England?
It is.
I just realized that I'm dyslexic, and this week isn't going to be nearly as sexy as I thought it was.
I thought it was like You know how it's like Los Spookies? I thought it was like Los Essex, you know?
Oh, Los is sexy.
Los Sexy.
No. It was a boat.
Oh.
Boats
Sex
can be
boat?
sexy.
Yachts? Were there babes on there?
For some reason, boats are all called, they're all referred to with female pronouns.
Right.
Right.
Her, she,
Yeah.
Because they're
kind of thing.
sexy.
Some people may think so.
So, all right, this takes place on a boat, the Essex. I'm assuming lots of Kenny Loggins is playing. A lot of parrot heads are hanging out.
Hall & Oates.
Yeah, living that Jimmy Buffett lifestyle.
Shoes with no laces.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boat shoes.
Dockers. Plenty of dockers.
We'll actually get to the fact that they didn't wear shoes while they're in their whaling boats.
What?
Because you see, the Essex was a whaling vessel.
Oh!
Those whales have had it too good for too long.
And it was built in Amesbury, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, Massachusetts. And it was first launched in 1799.
Okay.
So that's kind of the time frame we're looking at. We're
Okay.
looking at early
1800s.
1800s.
Yeah.
1820s mainly.
All right.
In the early 19th century, the world was lit with sperm oil.
Cool.
Nothing? No jokes?
I think that was enough.
All right.
What more am I supposed to say? We're like, all right. Fucking Quagmire.
If that's the way it works, I'm gonna burn this mother down. Jiggity jack jack doo.
Yeah. We're all gonna jack off.
It was used to make candles and used in street lamps because it burned bright and it was odorless. And then it was, of course, replaced by kerosene and petroleum products to make all of these things.
How much you get out of one whale?
I don't, because whales vary in size, so it's hard to say.
How many candles could get out of your average sperm whale?
I don't know.
A dozen?
I don't know. A baker's dozen?
Yeah.
I don't know. A good-sized whaling ship would pull into port with 2,000 barrels of whale oil.
Which could make 2 candles.
Yeah. Or 2,000 gallons of whale oil. It's probably sounds more accurate. I don't know if they can.
That's enough for an orgy.
Grease them up real
It
good.
smells ripe.
He said
real
it's
bad.
odorless.
Again, perfect for an
It
orgy.
burns odorless, but the oil itself is like the raw whale oil stinks to high heaven. You could actually smell Nantucket, which was the center for the whale oil
I
trade.
feel a limerick coming on.
Yeah. I heard about a guy from there.
It didn't smell very good.
And he reeked of whale oil.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could smell it before you got there.
It's like the boat's coming into the harbor. They're like, "You're in a hurry," and they're like, "Yeah, we're making a Meatloaf music video. We need all this for the candles."
And those are long videos.
Yeah.
whale oil and whale products. They never dried out. They never became rancid, nor were they corrosive. So it was used as machinery lubricant as well. And again, replaced all by petroleum products, which is just cheaper, honestly, and way less detrimental to the environment because you're not overhunting whales.
Yeah.
Which at this point, there's still like dead areas where there are no more whales.
I still use whale oil for my car.
Yeah, it's illegal.
Yeah, I know. My car doesn't run anymore.
Enough about the oil. I want to know about the meat.
Okay, well...
Oh, dude, did I tell you about the whale burger that I had in Norway? Mamma mia.
It's funny that you would not tell us such a whale of a tale.
Nice.
Wait, I'm almost positive that
Yeah, you
I
did.
mentioned...
I think you did bring it up in a previous episode.
I think
actually.
it's been on the podcast because we don't talk to each other outside this.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
I've never spoken a word to Jerry.
When you guys reach out to me outside the podcast, or I'll be walking down the street and Jerry will say, "Hey Tyler, it's me, Jerry from the podcast." I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?"
He covers.
I'm with my family.
He covers half of his face
Yeah.
and he walks faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go. Maybe you're mistaken me, and you're like, "Nah, it's Jerry from the podcast," and that's when I fly off the handle. And I'm like, "I'm here with my wife and my son. All right."
Leave me
You gotta-
alone, crazy man.
Yeah, you got to keep walking. All
You
right.
said that to me yesterday
Yeah.
on the street. I did not appreciate it.
Yeah, and then as you walk away, I go, "So I'll see you tomorrow, same time."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a secret friend.
Yeah, none of my family knows about the podcast. That's for damn sure.
But you're the most famous person on the podcast.
Well, they don't know that.
Oh, true.
The best
You
kind of
You
famous.
can't get podcasts from a basement.
Now,
They're all in the base.
They're all in the
Oh, I see, and they're dead.
Okay.
Oh,
That's one way you could take that.
I just
Some
thought
of
that they
them.
were hermits.
Yeah.
I just thought they were chained up down there.
Okay. We went a different way with that. Okay.
It's open to interpretation.
Yes.
The gang's all back together.
Yeah. Now, getting sperm whale is not easy. Sperm whales are the largest toothed mammal on the planet, measuring around an average of 60 feet long and weighing around 50 tons.
They got nothing on those baleen whales.
And actually, Nantucket used to hunt the baleen whales that used to hang out in the bay.
Blue or baleen
Yeah.
whale. And they're the biggest.
They would actually use baleen in a lot of shit, like corsets and stuff like that. It's bendy. You know, you can use it in a
Toothbrushes.
lot of shit. A lot of shit, yeah.
I almost feel like they were like, we love killing whales. We just need to figure out shit to do with all the leftovers afterwards. And they're like, you can make it into stuff. And they're like, I guess we can try. And then it just, because they weren't like, we really need something that does X, Y, Z.
Well, the reason why, Tyler, is because they were watching Native Americans hunt whales in the bay, and they were like, "Oh
That looks
shit,
like so much
you can
fun."
do that." Because their farms, their farms on the island, they're smaller farms, and you kind of dig down, and it's mainly sand.
Right.
So when they saw that, they're like, "Oh shit, you can just like hunt whales."
We've been out here farming like idiots.
Yeah, and so that's how it started. And they had to go further and further to get whales because they'd hunt them, until near extinction in that area. And when they went out far enough, they found a more aggressive whale that was bigger and held all this crazy oil that they figured out how to do all this
And
shit with.
this is the sperm
And
whale?
that's the sperm whale. Yeah. And they were like, okay, well...
So the sperm whale was the Exxon Mobil of the time.
It was of the time, yeah.
Okay.
And Nantucket was Texas of the time.
Texas tea.
Yeehaw!
Yeah.
A Nantucket.
Nantucket tea.
Yeah.
what you're gonna say? I was gonna
Nantucket
say-
nectar.
Better.
I was going to say a Nantucket oil man sounds like a really weird thing.
Well, it's a salty sailor man.
Yeah.
You know,
He doesn't
he's
have,
a whaler.
He doesn't have like a cowboy hat and like
No,
a
he has
bolo
one of
tie.
those. He has one of those yellow, like the salt guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like the Gordon's Fisherman.
I was
Yeah, there you go.
picturing Willem Dafoe from The Lighthouse.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
Wasn't he like a fisherman or something in the past?
He's
or
probably
whaler?
a whaler. He's
I feel like
probably a
that
whaler.
guy used to be a whaler.
Oh yeah, he strikes me as an old salty whaler.
Wailing on the moon.
Help me to recollect.
Now, it was an incredibly dangerous job to go out and get these whales, but it was a respected job. And although it didn't really pay well, it was respected to be a whaler. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it was so dangerous.
And cool.
For them, back then
Cooling
it
whale,
was.
killing whales?
For them back then, absolutely, it was super cool.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's not still. I was
What are you
joking.
going to do?
No,
Be
it's
an
not.
Instagram influencer? You know?
Be like,
Either kill the whales or you fucking... I don't know.
you either kill the whales or you defame those that kill whales.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Instagram.
it's illegal now.
Should be.
Yeah, it should be.
And if we didn't kill the whales would kill us, so... it's fair.
We stopped the whale uprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the story of the Essex, her crew and survivors, and the unimaginable horrors that occurred to them has been whispered about since it came to light in the 1820s. Later, the story would be one of the most profound inspirations for another young whaling man, Herman Melville, in his strange classic, Moby Dick.
Would you look at that?
Yeah.
Is is whale oil the same thing as I don't know if it's ambergris or ambergris.
We're going to get to
Oh, okay.
ambergris. We're going to get to ambergris. It is different.
I know that from an episode of Futurama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gross.
Ambergris is the vomit.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, okay.
That's how they
It's not
pay-
vomit,
Well-
but we'll get to that.
That's how they pronounced it on that
They say they like to say it's vomit,
Right.
And I'll get to why they say it's vomit
'Cause it's
but it's not
way
really
grosser
vomit.
Because
than
they don't
vomit.
want
It's
you
way
to have
grosser.
it. They're like, it's delicious and we don't want to share, so we're going to say it's vomit.
Yeah,
It smells great, so we're gonna make perfume out of
It's
it.
the same reason why no one ever wants to share ramen or chili with me. It's like, you can have some, but it's my puke.
Jesus. The Quaker Island of Nantucket was the center of the whale oil trade, as I said, and whaling ships would leave the island for 2 to 3 years at a time, sometimes longer, to hunt sperm whales and fill up their ship to come back. So this was not like a weekend excursion. You know, when you signed on to one of these boats, you were gone for 2 to 3 years.
Oh.
You know, which is a chunk of change. You know,
Good thing they had a bunch of babes on the ship.
I think it's quite the contrary. It'd be great to be those
Bunch of stinky men.
wives left back at home because he's going and bringing home the bacon, the whale bacon, and you're stuck back at town with your pick of what's left over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get to that too.
Oh.
Because the men were a lot of the men were gone.
Well,
And many of the island's children, who were raised by their mothers and grandmothers and like aunts and stuff, they were almost predestined to become Nantucket whalers. You grew up there, you were going to be a whaler, my friend. That's what you're going to be. And whalers were paid a negotiated share of the end take at the end of the voyage. So however much whale oil you brought back, you got a take of that. You got a certain fraction of that.
Sure. It's like a bank job.
Right, and, the captain obviously got more, and all the way down to the cabin boy got the least.
it's just like EverQuest, man. You form a group, and then you go to the dungeon, and then afterwards you get to split all the loot.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. And
I was always the cabin boy.
You're still the cabin boy to me.
Thanks, man.
now, officers and, captains and things like that, they could make as high as 1/15 of the take. Sometimes if they owned the boat, they could make even more.
Oh.
Whereas most of the rest of the crew and deckhands and cabin boys, they were paid 1/120th of the take. So, at the end of a 3-year voyage, a low-ranking crewman called a green hand, they would make a meager sum of $150.
You gotta work your way up.
That's what they said. So, 3 years, what do you have to show? $150.
Is this still?
That's about right.
This is
that
$150 this time.
Yes, but
It's still, I get it.
over the
3
course of 3 years.
Yeah.
It's
so-
nothing.
It sounds like those green hands need to unionize.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it like what you said, it was also viewed as being paid in experience to get their own start in the whaling career.
Anybody in the design world knows what that's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Oh no, I
Googled
can't
it.
pay
It'll be
you.
great exposure.
Yeah, great exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I googled it because I always do this because I like to think about it in modern times. But that, 150 in that time was about $3,000
Over
for
3 years.
That's $1,000 a year.
$1,000 a year.
In
Jesus
today's
Christ.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's nothing.
But they're like, you get to stay on our boat.
They're like,
Do they-
oh, cool. I
They
can't
gotta
wait to
pay
tell
off
my
all
wife
that
and
food
kids about
they
how
ate.
I gotta stay on a free boat when I bring back a handful of pennies.
And you're working your ass off the whole
Yeah,
time.
and I could die.
Yeah.
You gotta work your way up. It's like a longshoreman.
Yeah. Now, during preparation for the whaling voyage, the low-ranking crewmen, the Green Hands, would be given an advance of their take to buy clothing and anything else that they would need for the trip, and they would be deducted from their final pay.
So they gotta be less.
So they'd get even less.
Right.
And
I shouldn't have bought this $3,000 suit
to wear on a whaling voyage.
for 3 years.
$3,000 tuxedo.
Yeah, so that was a part of it, and they would kind of almost work for free.
It sounds
like
like it.
setting up the boat, And they were like, it's what you do. We all did it too,
Yeah,
It's
welcome
like,
to being
okay.
an artist.
Yeah, that exactly.
They're making more than I am.
The Essex was one of these boats, and the captain of the Essex, he was hired by the Quaker investors in 1819, and his name was Captain George Pollard Jr. He was only 28 years old when he was captain. It was the first time he was captain of any boat, and he was actually the youngest whaling captain at the time. The
I was
youngest
assuming-
captain ever at the time.
Life expectancy for these people is about 28 at the time.
Well, and crews of whaling boats generally ranged from late teens to late 20s. There weren't a lot of people older than that on boats, although there were a handful that were younger or older, usually upper tier captains, but there were some deckhands that had been doing it, for years.
So
Great.
so we're. Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So the demographics, that 18 to 24 demographic, they can all watch the same shows and like the same stuff while they're on the boat, which is great.
Yeah.
Imagine they watch a lot of Adult Swim.
A lot of Adult Swim, getting that Jack in the Box late night menu,
I don't-
puff puff give. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know what
420,
18 to
bro.
24-years watch anymore. When I was 18 to 24, it was Adult Swim.
It was Adult Swim.
Now it's what Young Sheldon,
No, that's boomers, man.
old Sheldon, I don't know,
Regular
it's
Sheldon,
boomers.
middle Sheldon.
Yeah.
Medium young Sheldon.
No, nobody under the age of 25 watches anything on CBS.
They better.
There, I said it. You know?
And if you do, listener,
Move out of your parents' house.
you don't. Stop it.
I know COVID, the economy. But at least get your own TV. You don't got
Get your own TV.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch NCIS.
I know you're like, the economy's in shambles, but, you know, we've lived with many shambled economies. It happens every time there's a Republican president. Just get over it. Move out.
Now, among Pollard's crew, there was his first mate, 21-year-old Owen Chase, who actually, he had been on a couple other boats, and he, like, wanted to be captain. And, like, he kind of, like, huffed and puffed. He was like, I should be captain by now.
I won't be captain.
21 years old. And, honestly...
That's an old man by then.
He had learned everything there was to know about being captain. He could have legit been a captain. So, that's not just him bitching. He could have been captain.
Probably should have been.
21 years old, though. That's insane.
21-year-old
what have we
captain?
done with our lives?
Well, I was about to say.
I mean, I was the captain of a shipping vessel at that age, but no big deal or nothing. I meant whaling vessel.
I can't even imagine like being on a boat with fucking teenage boys and young adult men and trusting them with my life. Can you? I don't fucking trust them making me my fucking sandwiches.
Well, when
Yeah.
like some of the oldest guys on the boat that you may outrank are like 34, maybe 40. You know,
Right.
you know, the whole boat is run by, you know, basically 20-sums. You know,
I'd be like the oldest one there.
yeah, you
Oh,
would.
by like a decade.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm 9 years older than this George Pollard,
George Pollard, yeah.
You could probably kick his ass.
and I will if I find him.
I don't know if they're working on those boats. They're probably pretty tough
Oh,
guys.
they're made of tough stuff.
Well, I'm just saying he's a skeleton now, so I probably.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any trouble. Second mate, Matthew Joy, and the 14-year-old cabin boy,
Ooh.
Thomas Nickerson. They're just a couple that are names that'll come up. You'll meet more people as we go on. Now, although his crew were mainly inexperienced green hands, and the Essex was an older boat, usually merchant vessels wouldn't last as long as whaling ships, and the reason why is because of all the oil that would be literally covered
Yeah.
on the whaling boats. Like, that oil gets everywhere, and it gets into the wood, so
It's
it
like
kind of
sand.
makes it
Yeah.
it kind of makes it last longer. So yeah, the Essex was viewed as a lucky boat.
Greased lightning.
Yeah, it was viewed as a lucky boat. It had been very successful, and yeah, everyone was like, "Yeah, it's old, but who cares?"
And everybody sounded like Vinnie Barbarino.
Yeah. They're like, hey, it's not bad. You slide everywhere you go.
They probably sounded more like Willem Dafoe from The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get you next time, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Sliding around on the boat.
Lighthouse.
Yeah, lighthouse.
And yeah, Pollard, he had previously served under an illustrious captain before, so everyone was pretty good with it. Like, this illustrious captain was like, oh yeah, Pollard's great, you know. So he was hand on the reins over.
He ain't no Owen Chase.
Right. Owen Chase is my favorite person in this story.
I feel like when we write like the YA novel version of this,
Ooh.
they're gonna be like the two dudes, and then you have the chick back home who's like the love triangle, you know. And he's this
But she
captain.
sneaks onto the
They don't
boat.
like each other, but he promised her that he would not kill him. And
There's an element of that.
oh,
There's an element of that. It's not a love triangle, but there's an element of that. We'll get there. We'll
wish
get there.
there was a love
That's
triangle.
later on in the episode.
It's
though.
pretty much Twilight on
Yeah.
a ship.
And it turns out Owen Chase is also a werewolf.
Yeah.
Don't
Never
spoil
keeps his
it.
shirt on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he ever wear a shirt?
Yeah. Now, the Essex was 87 feet long and had 12 sails, which was small for a whaling boat, but it did make it faster. It was equipped with 4 whale boats, like smaller whaling boats, because you got to get in smaller boats to go out and get the whale, right? And we'll kind of get into the process later, but it was equipped with 4 boats. That's important to know right now. But the thing is the way you did it is you would only launch 3 at a time, and you'd always have a spare. You'd always have a backup, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Right? Now, below deck, there was the officer's quarters in the rear.
Nice.
There was steerage, which was in the middle.
It's where the poor people lived.
Well, it's where everyone else was. But then, well, right after that, there was the blubber room.
Oh, the blubber
where you
room.
held all the blubber.
Sounds
right?
like so much fun.
Oh, the pudding
It's the
vats.
grossest area of the ship. It's the grossest area of the ship. But in front of that, the very, very front, you had the forecastle. And that is where the very low-ranking sailors, that's where they stayed.
They go behind the blubber.
You have to walk through the blubber room. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say behind the blubber room is where they keep all the babes. They're like, the babes are there. You just gotta go through the blubber room, and everyone's like, ugh, that's fucking gross.
Yeah.
Nah, we'll just deal with jerking each other off for the next 3 years.
Yeah, that's
well,
fine.
well,
I'd
the
rather
thing-
just jerk you off.
Yeah.
Well, and below that, they kept all their stores and everything, all their
doubloons.
cargo. Yeah, sure. But
Pieces of bait.
there were people that said that the forecastle was actually kind of better because
Because of the babes.
No, because in steerage you always had an officer looking over your shoulder, and they didn't want you making noises, they didn't want you singing and dancing, they didn't want you talking about the captain or anything. But in the forecastle, which no one ever went to unless you stayed there,
Anything.
The Wild West.
Anything
that's
goes.
where you could hang out and tell stories and all that kind of stuff.
Jerk off all your friends.
Sing and dance.
And sing and dance. Yeah. Some people preferred the forecastle.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'd be a foxhole.
forecastle.
Forecastle
And it's actually spelled forecastle, but it's pronounced foxle.
These people were English.
They were American.
Yeah.
They were from Nantucket.
Yeah. I'm just saying, they still had a lot of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Maybe some Scottish.
Early 19th century. Yeah.
Yeah, very
Right.
much I'm not pronouncing the whole fucking thing. I don't got all day.
Yeah. Now, every effort was made to keep the ship full and efficient for the long journey ahead. So, as you would eat your food stores, you would get whale blubber. And so it was just always full, right? It just sort of balanced out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And on your way home, you'd have more whale than you would the stuff that you need to get home, right? That's just how it balances out.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it was
Conserve space.
It was very efficient, extremely efficient. And the Essex would leave Nantucket on August 12th, 1819. And the worst part about leaving for a whaling voyage with mostly green hands is that all the island came out to see you go. No TV, right? Mm-hmm. Including all the old salts. And they watched you and they judged every mistake that you made from the shore. So you knew that they were just watching you.
Yeah, it's like it's like an old boomer in a cul-de-sac watching somebody fix their car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could do better.
Yeah, look at the way that yawn.
Look at that parallel parking.
Yeah, and so of
I'm gonna
course,
call the cops this time. I swear to God.
yeah. So of course, the officers who had been friendly with you this whole time, they instantly switched gears and turned into these crazy taskmasters
that's how
that
they get you.
screamed and yelled at you.
Yeah.
That you'd never heard them curse in your whole life. Think about being 14 years old. You've never heard them curse once in your life. They got to your Quaker church with you. You grew up around these dudes, and here they are screaming and cursing at you.
You
You're like,
dumb
"Oh, shit."
motherfucker!
Yeah, yeah,
Get shit done now!
yeah,
Right away.
yeah, right away.
Second your footsteps
boom.
on the boat.
Yeah,
In that
the second they
moment-
start leaving.
The Quakers created the Shakers.
And the bakers.
And the candlestick a makers.
There you go.
Literally.
Literally. So in the first few days of the trip, many of the green hands were stuck with seasickness, for which there was a cure of the time.
Grog.
No, worse. A piece of pork fat was tied to a string,
Yep.
and the person with seasickness would swallow it, and once it was swallowed, they would yank it back up.
What?
And they would do this until you were cured.
Until you
of
puked your fucking
seasickness.
guts out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they use the same piece of pork fat on everybody?
History is silent.
Okay.
I mean, sharing is caring.
That's pretty damning.
Oh,
Looks like those green hands
sounds
are
terrible.
green faces now.
What it sounds like to me
Nothing?
is that if
Okay.
you still
I'm sorry, I was tuned out.
it makes sense. But what it seems like to me is if you had seasickness still after this treatment, you just wouldn't tell anybody.
Yeah, you're like,
You know,
oh, you need more
You're
treatment.
cured now. You won't bitch about it
It's a
anymore.
treatment for your complaining.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when somebody says well, what if I break your finger? Will that make you shut up about your
Yeah.
back or something?
Yeah.
Right.
Keep
Yeah.
crying, I'll give you a reason
So what
to
I'm
cry.
thinking
Yeah.
is those green hands More like green faces.
Nice.
You son of a bitch! You son of a bitch!
Coming in with the great jokes today. Good job, Chris.
Yeah.
Gold star to Chris Whedon.
You motherfucker.
Best history boy.
Correct. Correct. I'm famous for a reason.
Yeah. Now, 2 days after launching, however, 2 days, the Essex experienced its first bad omen.
They killed the seagull.
Kill the seagull.
It was struck by a squall.
Oh.
Huh?
Now, the best practices for a sudden squall, you know what a squall is.
Yeah,
Storm.
he has a gunblade.
Yeah, really annoying protagonist.
Yeah, he's that scar that Cypher gave him.
Yep.
No.
And then I don't know, I didn't beat that one.
It's
I
a
did.
sea storm that
It's a fine
come
game.
about.
It's wind.
It's all right.
It's wind and
I
rain.
like the battle system.
Yeah.
I don't
Wind
like
and
the
rain.
draw system.
It was struck by a squall, and the best practices for a sudden squall is to either steer directly into it, and what you do is you fight the wind until it passes,
Sure.
or you are pointed in the opposite direction, 180 degrees around, and you just let it push you. But
Surf the squall, man.
yeah, the worst thing to do is to let it hit you broadside.
Because that'll flip you right over.
It'll knock you over, and it'll do something called a knockdown. Basically, it turns, and if you look up pictures of a knockdown, it turns the boat almost on its side. The mast dips into the water.
Oh, sweet.
It is horrifying.
Regular
Horrifying.
Good thing they
capsize.
all have magic boots to
It's
keep
not like-
them on the boat.
Yeah. It's not like a full capsize, though.
No,
Come back
no.
up,
You do, but you gotta be on your A game.
otherwise you will capsize.
Yeah. You
you
gotta have
probably-
a captain that knows what the fuck they're doing, and you gotta have a crew that does
Because
know what they're doing.
at this point it's dipping below, the 90 degrees.
It's going like this.
So, like,
So, audience,
yeah, sorry,
we're
it's-
doing close to doing a
I said
full
90
horizontal.
It's it's not 90 degrees, but it's close.
Yeah.
The salsa
Damn close.
thermometer. Think of the boat as a salsa thermometer.
Yeah.
It's going from, I would say, medium to hot.
like muy caliente.
Muy caliente.
When it's upright, that's like what? That's
It's
on
medium.
on a clear day. That's a fucking bell pepper, man.
Yeah.
That's a medium. That's
Yeah.
a mild.
Yeah,
that's a
that's-
nothing.
that's-
If they handled it right, it would have been a jalapeno.
Yeah, that's like
But this-
one of those
we're talking
sauces
like
that was made
habanero.
in New York City.
yeah.
Look, I just can't help but think to myself, if you're one of the guys that are sitting there on a rope trying to get it back up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you get launched, it's
Whoa.
like that scene from Heavyweights on the Blob.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
I didn't even think about coming back up. You're hanging onto the rigging, and you're like, I'll just get all the way out by the crow's nest on the rigging.
It's
and
the
you're-
last place you want to be.
I know, and then
Oh,
when
you
the
get
boat
in the
water.
flings back up, and you go, whoa!
And it launches
And
you.
then somebody goes, "Cowabunga, bro!"
It makes a twinkle
Yeah,
like in
just-
Smash Brothers. Bing.
Well,
I guess I'll tell everyone back home how we're doing.
Yeah.
We're gonna insert the home run bat sound effect right here.
Yeah. Maybe some Harry Carey, like it is out of here. Or something like that.
if the moon were made of pork ribs,
I'd eat them. I'd go back for seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what happened to the Essex. Pollard had waited too long, which was a matter of moments, to shorten sail because you didn't want too many sails with a squall
it'll push
hitting
you too far.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't want all your sails out if you're going to fight the wind, right? You want to have just not as much, right?
But if there's
Just-
no sails and you're not fighting anything, you have no control.
well, then it can knock you around. Yeah, exactly. It hit the broadside of the ship, so it turned him over.
So they fucked that up.
And had a knockdown. Yeah, and there's a lot of people that were saying that, like, Pollard he saw the storm coming and waited just a little too long, and he was shirking the laws of the sea by doing this. He was like,
Willem
his
Dafoe would
hubris.
say that.
Yeah, exactly. Men clung to the masts as the driving rain
I thought it was
tossing,
a COVID thing.
No,
Make sure you
masts.
keep your masks
Yeah.
on.
No, the masts, as the driving rain and tossing sea threatened to destroy the boat. And when they finally got it back upright again, the top gallant sail was destroyed, as well as 2 of their whaling boats. One other was damaged as well, but they were able to fix it. Captain Pollard decided that, they were going to keep going. They weren't going to turn back to Nantucket to get more whaling boats and get everything fixed. They're going to keep going.
So Pollard's
Because-
going to.
I'm going to guess that's going to be the right decision.
Well, because there's a bunch of places that they're going to stop along the Atlantic South American coast, and they're figuring, like, there's got to be whaling boats down there that we can barter for or buy while we're down there, you know, because we're going to reprovision and everything while we're there, so there's got to be other boats to buy.
Yeah.
For sure.
And this isn't pissing in Poseidon's eye at all. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. So they kept going. There's actually something going on there that we will cover in a different episode. And I will make the connection when we do cover that. I'm not going to make it now.
Plus, they're clearly going to Argentina, so they can start new lives and escape the war crimes that they committed.
It's like, yeah, that's like really far though.
Yeah, that's really far. Now, the waters of the Atlantic had been overfished. Well, overwhaled, I should say.
Whales aren't fish.
No, they're not. They called them fish in these days. You know, the great fish.
Like Stanza.
Yeah.
Remember that? With
I do. I reached my hand into the great fish.
Yeah.
The Essex's mission was to round Cape Horn on the southern tip of South America.
Round gay porn?
I was thinking
I
that
fucking
too.
hate you.
I thought it too, and I was like, no, I'm too good for that.
There's no round edges in gay porn. It's hard muscle.
Hard.
Hard muscle, big penises.
2 nights ago, Tyler was telling me, you know, I want to go for those sophisticated highbrow jokes. I'm gonna let Chris make all those like lowbrow jokes. And here he comes in with the gay porn.
Hey, I didn't say nothing about those sperm whales. I deserve credit. You promised me you were gonna give me a crisp $5 bill if I didn't talk about the sperm whales. You didn't say anything about the gay porn.
But yeah, they were going to round Cape Horn, and they were going to go into the Pacific. Now, as we know, they also had to go through this
Drake's
area,
Passage.
the dreaded Drake's Passage.
Oh, yeah. Here we go again.
So here's the thing about
temperatures.
Drake's music.
The most hostile place on Earth.
Much like Drake's music. I don't care for it.
That's fine.
It's no Phineas.
You can like what you like. We all like
Agreed.
things we like.
As long as it's not Drake's Passage.
Now, after bartering for another whale boat and some skinny-ass pigs, they made the tenuous crossing. Although they were now running behind schedule because Drake's Passage is god-awful.
I've
And
heard
it was horrible.
nothing good about it.
Yeah, they were able to get through, but it's always an ordeal, especially at this time frame. To this day, it's an ordeal. Yeah. You know, you'll have Navy men talking about, like, oh shit, crossing the Drake, you know, like, that's rough business.
Did they go to Elephant Island?
May have. You talk to them.
They're dead!
Oh, these people?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the Navymen. I would never talk to a Navyman. They're way cooler than me. I'm insecure.
Yeah.
See, I went the other way on it.
There you go. So they were making their way up the western coast of South America, looking for whales. Honestly, didn't see a lot. It was a slim season. They talked to other whaling boats, and they were like, yeah, dude, honestly, not a lot. And they're, like, stopping in Peru to, like, you know, re-up on supplies and
I feel
everything.
like that trip had to be, all the way down.
All the way
back
down
up.
and around, yeah.
And
It's long. It's
mean,
long.
You've pretty much gone around the whole continent at that
Yeah.
point.
Well, at least they're in Peru. They can pick up a couple bottles of pisco and just party
Yeah.
and like.
And maybe they won't find any whales, but they might find some whale tails.
And
if you know what I
also-
mean, riding high.
Oh,
Drake's Passage was from a previous podcast, and Lima also.
Also Lima. So what was happening is, like, they were like, ah, shit, we've barely seen anything. And, like, they see other ships as they're going, you know, that they go up, you know, beside and they chat, because you have to, right? And they're like, we already got 8 whales. And they're like, fuck, we haven't got any. You know, and, like, so they're like, shit, what do we do? And they hear a rumor that this one whaling boat had just hit the mother lode. But the thing was, is you had to go deep. You had to go far out into the Pacific Ocean in order to get it. And they're like, that's farther than we normally go.
right.
But we gotta get something. You know?
In my view, it's not fair that 99% of the whaling boats only get 1% of the whales and ceremonial swords.
Nice.
It's a solid Bernie Sanders reference. I'm gonna say that I feel like the other boats that they saw were like they're like, oh, it's the rich kid boat from across the lake, and they're like, how are you guys doing? I see you don't have any whales. We already have 8, and it's like, oh,
shirts.
It's a meatballs situation.
it's a real it's a real Meatballs Revenge of the Nerds.
That's really interesting because
Van Wilder.
I went a different
later
way with
one.
that. I thought of it as like, oh, we got 8 whales. Yeah, we did. It's like the same as like I got a girlfriend.
She lives in another town. You don't know her. She goes to another school.
My dad owns a
we met at
dealership.
camp, and now she's back in Canada.
Yeah, yeah. We talk online.
Exactly. I have her aim.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
We're dating ourselves now.
Her breast is like a bag of sand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a Wild Wild West reference.
Well, while they were hitting the ports on the west side of South America, one man did desert, and that left their crew now down to 20. Now, people deserted all the time on these whaling ships.
They deserted like fucking crazy.
Not like crazy, but it wasn't weird, you know? It wasn't odd that somebody would desert.
Dessert, like abandoned. Like I thought you meant they were hungry and they wanted something
No,
sweet.
God, get it together, Zach.
Some creme
Context.
brulee. Yeah. Regular Osaka over here.
That's me.
But since each whaling boat needed a crew of 6, this only left 2 men to stay on the deck of the Essex while they were away. Right? That's 2 people on the deck.
That's not
looking
enough.
out. That's not.
It just seems like they're getting real desperate.
Yeah.
Stretching themselves pretty darn thin. They should have known that those guys were going to desert when they were like, you spent your $3,000 on a tuxedo? And they were like, just let me off on the casino ports of Venezuela.
The
Yeah.
casino port.
And he's got a. By the way, Tyler did this like
He
hat.
did like he was
straightening a top hat.
straightening like a fedora
I
or a
pictured
top hat.
That guy's dressed to the nines. He
Yeah.
spent his
He has
entire
a bowler or something.
$150, modern times $3,000 on his outfit. It was like, just drop me off of Venezuela. I'm gonna pick up some babes.
Spinning his canes.
Yeah.
You must be the Monopoly guy.
Yeah.
One of them was dressed like a pimp,
Yeah.
full
name is
fur
Slipback?
jacket. You know.
Oh, zoot suit.
Listening to some Curtis Mayfield.
Oh, there's a full on. There's a full on zoot suit riot.
Yeah.
Riot?
Riot.
Now, on a ship, there are watches, and everyone has to do a watch. And you have to climb to the top of the mast, all the way to the top, at the bird's nest, 10 stories high.
10 stories
10
high.
stories high.
Kick out the birds.
That's so high.
To look for whale spouts on the horizon.
I would have never thought it was that high.
Now, yeah. Now,
It would have been like
like you know,
3
like
tops.
like blue whales, like baleen whales, and things like this. They have spouts that go up. Like if you were to draw a picture, if a kid were to draw a picture of a whale spout,
Or a grown man.
that's what those look like.
Okay.
A sperm whale's different. A sperm whale, the way they surface, they kind of surface to the side, and they spout diagonally off the side. It's harder to see. So that's what you're looking for.
It's like
You're
they're
looking-
hawking a lug, basically.
Yeah, but it's it's more to the side.
I did
Right, yeah.
so much research on whales before this, and it turned out I only researched baleen whales.
Yeah. So that's what you're looking for, right? And you're up there, and you're looking for that. And when you're seasick and you have to stand up there, and keep in mind the movement of the boat is like tenfold up there.
Oh, I'd imagine.
So it goes way back, way forth.
Every
And you're-
movement is exponential.
You're holding on for dear life.
Oh, I know that feeling. That
Yeah.
was my last tour that I was on, and I had the top bunk on the bus.
Ah.
Oh my god, I felt like I was getting fucking thrown out. Like any movement, I could have gotten thrown out of the fucking bunk. Horrible.
That's
hit
probably
a speed bump.
That's probably hard to sleep.
Yeah.
Dude, I did not sleep that fucking tour.
Yeah.
I remember the before times. Do you, dear listener?
I certainly never went on tour.
Maybe
When-
tour of the Cheesecake Factory.
That's my favorite tour.
Yeah.
The tour of Italy at the Olive Garden.
Oh, that's so much better. Just cut out my joke completely.
The only 2 tours that Tyler and Chris have been on.
That's those are amongst the tours Zach's been on.
Yeah. Now, when a spout was spotted, the watch would yell, there she blows!
Ah.
Or, blows!
I mean, if you don't got all day. Yeah.
And yeah, you'd scream at the top of your lungs and everyone would snap into action. And you always had to be ready to see a whale spout. Because woe is the crew that isn't ready when you see one. Because this is your livelihood. This is your money. You have to be,
Oh, dude,
be
I bet
ready.
I'd be so fucking pissed if you didn't get it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And
You're like,
it will get there, but it happens.
It's like when you're playing Pokemon and you don't get the Pokemon and it escapes.
Yep.
It's got to be the same feeling.
It's exactly
It's
the same feeling.
close to the same feeling. Only
In fact, the
your
Pokemon
life
thing-
isn't at stake.
It is if somebody's holding a gun to your head while you're playing Pokemon.
Well, not to
Like,
mention,
you better catch that Pikachu, man.
in this case,
It's your ass.
you got some mouthy ass fucking whale spouting off again, coming at you diagonal. What are you gonna
Oh,
do?
yeah.
You're gonna throw some harpoons in it, right?
I mean,
right into him.
Well, so each crew of the 25-foot whale boats were chosen very carefully. And there was actually competition. And there was pride that went into being chosen for certain people's whale boats. It's a hierarchy, and it's a pecking order. Now, many didn't want anyone on their boat that wasn't from Nantucket. They wanted Nantucketers that they had grown up with and that they know to be on their boat.
You gotta
People
trust.
You know.
locals
Your whalers.
only.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If your dick's not so long you can suck it, you find another boat.
I was waiting for somebody to overtly say that.
Well, there were, on this trip too, there were a lot of off-islanders, people from Cape Cod, people from New York. A lot of them were black sailors. And a lot of them, were relegated to the forecastle. And, they got the shittiest jobs on the ship.
Right.
But it was a job.
I was
They
going
were
to make
just
fun
looking
of
for
these
something.
people until you said, and they were black. I was like, oh, fuck,
Some of
man.
them were. Some of them were. Most
like
of them
these-
were Nantucketers, but there was
I was like
a
these
lot of black
idiots
crew.
from Cape Cod and New York, and you're like, and they were African American. I'm like, fuck. I can't joke about them.
I mean, you can rag on people because of where they're from, as long as they're white. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, the thing is...
Okay, cool.
Well,
Now that I know the rules.
Well, the thing is they got paid the same as a white deckhand, and no one cared what color you were while you were out on the ship.
Yeah, do
Seemed like a
fucking
different
job.
world.
But when it came down to choosing who was going to be on your boat, oh, goddamn right they were racist. You were goddamn right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they wanted only their people. You know what I mean? And even if you were white and from Cape Cod, they didn't want you on the boat.
Those Cape Codders?
Yeah. Yeah.
No thanks.
New Englanders, am I right?
I mean,
We have listeners in New England.
also Nantucket's in New England.
Send us some clam chowder.
Yeah, send us a bucket of clam
Isn't that where
chowder.
Wings takes place?
It might.
Chances
fucking
are,
know.
after
I
all the
didn't
shit
watch
we've been
Wings.
talking about, New England, they're gonna send us clam chowder, and it's not gonna be.
The good kind. It's gonna have garbage.
It's
no,
going to be
no,
a can of clam chowder.
It's gonna be.
It's gonna be just nothing but jizz, is what it's gonna be.
Oh, I was gonna
Christ.
say it was gonna be red clam chowder. Ugh, get it out of
Red
here.
clam chowder?
Yeah,
yeah,
That's a thing?
yeah, dude.
yeah. I guess that is.
I don't know it.
I didn't know that.
Really? Yeah, man.
Really?
Like, there's the red or the fucking
The
Ace
red
Ventura.
or the white from Ace Ventura.
I don't remember this.
You can get red clam chowder.
That
That
at
came out
Ivers.
in the 90s.
Ivers ain't around anymore.
Yeah, it is. They're
A
selling
lot
that
of them are closed.
They're selling that
We
shit at
talked
the
about
grocery
it like
store.
2 episodes.
Yeah.
Tyler wasn't here for that.
Yeah.
I know, but he
He would
listened to
know.
him. He'd know that when we did the
Ivers-
history of Ivers.
More like Thrivers. They're doing fine.
Okay, anyway. Now, there was an officer, and including the captain, would go on these whale boats. They'd be at the till, and they would steer the boat. Well, sometimes they would have a boat steerer. They would have their chosen areas of expertise, while everyone else rowed. And then there would be a man in the boat, in the front of the boat, with a harpoon, and he was the harpooner. In the middle of the boat, there was a coil of rope that was attached to the harpoon. Now, wanting to get as close as possible to the whale, they had to be very quiet, so they weren't going to spook the whale. So they would row as quietly as they could, and each like commander of each boat had their own style of like egging his men on, like hyping his men up, but it was all like whispering, like, yes, Get closer. There she is. There she is. You can see her. Yes, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, get closer. Get closer. And then he would, yell like, a command to...
Fucking kill it!
Yeah.
Fucking kill it!
Sick balls!
Yeah, to launch the harpoon. And everyone knew that getting close to a sperm whale was very dangerous. If it bumped the boat from underneath, or a simple flick of its tail, it could send the boat and its crew into the air, and it could smash the boat.
That's demerit.
Yeah.
That's
So it's incredibly
paddling.
dangerous to get close. Now, the harpoon was more of a fish hook. It wasn't really meant to kill the whale. It was meant to stick in.
Scoop it up.
Meant to stick in there.
Give it a scoop.
Yeah. And once it struck and pierced through the tough hide of the whale, everyone hung on for dear life. Because as the whale panicked, the whale darted off, and it took the boat with him.
And that's when you gotta stuff that dynamite into the hole.
Yep.
No.
Blow
Because
it
then
up.
you don't want to blow it up.
Like in Reno 911, the movie.
Or like what happened in the coast of Oregon.
Also, literally, that it did happen. And Reno 911 was referencing that.
Now, with the nose of the boat being pulled down, the boat would bounce and skip over the choppy waves at speeds as high as 20 miles an hour
Jesus
on the
fucking
top of the water.
Christ.
This was called the Nantucket Sleigh Ride. Yeah. Because you held on until that whale was tired.
That's also a sex move.
Yeah.
Okay.
Made up by the man from Nantucket.
Nice.
I heard he had a big old dick.
Now, in the tumult, the crew had to bail water from the boat, because water would get in the boat, so you had to get the water out of the boat, and you had to keep the unraveling rope in the middle wet, or it would catch on fire, because it was spinning out so fast.
Oh shit!
And-
I didn't even think of friction.
Yeah, and you have to also, so you have to keep the rope wet, right, so it doesn't catch on fire, but you also have to stay well away from that rope. Because if you got caught in that shit, that would fucking amputate your leg or some shit.
Yeah.
You're donezo if that happens.
Metal.
So
And
stay
then
away
that
from
salt
it, but
water
keep it
gets
wet.
in it.
Right?
And your
It hurts
amputated
even
leg.
worse. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
And then you start crying in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Can you imagine trying to hold onto the rope and just like the most gnarliest
Oh.
rope burn happens to your hands?
You get rope burns and then you cry and your tears go in and it hurts more and you cry more and then you're embarrassing yourself in front of all the babes that are on the boat.
There's no
Yeah.
babes on the boat.
And then you can't jerk off for 3 years.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And they're babes.
Behind the blubber barn.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring
the
to.
blubber barn?
Yeah.
The blubber barn.
Yeah.
Come
the
on
boat.
down to Blubber Barn.
And the foxhole behind the blubber barn.
Yeah.
That's where they keep the babes.
No, they like to get foxholed behind the blubber barn.
Jesus Christ, you guys. Once the whale tired out, the harpooner at the front of the boat and the officer at the back of the boat would switch places. Now, this took an enormous amount of skill and coordination for these two at the same time to, while there's other men in the boat, to walk past each other while it's bouncing in the waves and there's a whale pulling you and take each other's position. Took an enormous amount of skill and coordination to do so. Because the reason for this is because it was the officer's duty and privilege to take the sharpened lance and kill the whale. Now, a lance is like giant. These things are like 7 feet tall, some of them, and they have a blade. It's like a leaf shape or diamond shape end on it, and it's sharpened as much as they could. I mean, they would sharpen it on their way, just to make sure. And he would take it and he'd plunge it into a spot on the whale that would hit its vital organs. And then what he would do is he would like almost like a butter churn, like work it around in
Jeez.
the
Work up his organs.
trying to hit a vital organ, make sure the whale was dying.
And wait for the froth to come out.
So this lance is what one would expect to see from medieval times.
He's a dragoon.
No. When you see like a cartoon of a fisherman like holding a giant pole with like a thing on the end, that's a lance.
Okay.
That's not a harpoon.
Okay, I was thinking that was a harpoon, and that a
no.
lance is what you see at medieval times.
Well, there's medieval lances, and those are different. But this is a whaling lance.
It's called a lance. Duh.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah. That's what you would try to do. And you would do it until one of the crew exclaimed, "Chimney's afire!" Do you know what that meant?
I meant that the froth was coming out.
Well, sort of. It meant that the blowhole started raining blood all over you.
Yeah, that's
it blew blood into the air and rained all over everyone in the boat.
So
Metal.
a Slayer concert.
Yeah, or a Gwar concert.
Oh, wow.
Or a Death Clock concert.
There you go. Yeah, insert metal band concert.
Right here, rest in peace, Brocky.
Ah, yes.
Odorous Ungress.
Yeah, Odorous Urungus, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean disrespectful, but I have no idea who that is.
Gwar.
He's a Gwar.
Singer.
Did Gwar die?
Singer, if you want to. That's a loose term, but singer for Gwar.
Vocalist.
Vocalist for
He
Gwar.
was the man that started Gwar.
He
Did he pass recently?
Oh no, he passed maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Well, fuck him then.
Dave Brocky was his name.
I'm kidding.
And he's a beautiful man.
They're talking about replacing one of the Confederate statues with a statue of Odorous.
Of Dick Rocky, basically.
Yeah.
I want to start talking about
Which would be
Dimebag Darrell, if that's all right, guys.
He got murdered on stage. That sucks.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Anyway, now during these tense moments, while the blood is raining down upon you, while the whale was dying, it is very important to row like the wind to get away from this whale, because it's in its death throes and it's thrashing around. And if this whale were to hit you, it would completely fuck you up. Like, it would knock everyone out of the boat. It would shatter your boat. You'd be fucked.
And
So-
and there's blood in the water, so you know that means
Honestly, sharks.
Sharks
It
are
does
coming.
mean sharks.
Yeah.
It does. 100%. It means sharks are coming.
Our last episode had sharks.
This one has sharks.
A tornado of sharks
No.
Like that documentary.
by the Sci-Fi Channel
a tornado of sharks, a boy's story.
with Tara Reid.
She plays the boy.
Now
In
once
this one,
once the whale is dead, it is towed back to the ship at the snail pace of 1 mile per hour. So, if it took you 5 hours to get there, or the whale pulled you, all over the place, it takes you 5 hours to get back. 8 hours to get back sometimes.
Wow.
Because this is big, and you're towing it back in this boat.
It's a big boy.
And everybody's rowing, to bring it back.
you're just thinking like 1 down, 19 to go.
Yeah, right.
We finally found one after we went around an entire continent.
Yeah. Now at this point, I'm going to warn the audience. This episode is gross. It is a spooky season episode. You should know that by now. But
I'm waiting
this
for the
episode's
spooky.
very gross. This part's very gross. It gets real spooky towards the end. But this part's disgusting. Just letting you know.
As gross as Terrar.
Ooh, Terrar's gross. This is pretty gross. I'll let you decide. How's that? So once the whale was brought back to the ship, it was hoisted up just over the water over the side of the ship, and like these planking systems were built like around it, so you could walk all the way around the whale, right? Like over the side of the ship.
Kind of like a floating dock, basically.
Well, like a plank over the edge of the ship, like 2 planks,
Sure.
and then you would have a plank connecting the 2 planks, so it was sort of a U shape
It was
on
like
the
a
edge of the
balcony.
ship.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And the whale hung in the middle, right?
Is that so the captain could walk around to get eye to eye with the whale and say, "I fucking got you, fucking got you"?
Yeah. Because he stole his hand or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Ahab, right?
You told me I couldn't do it, Carol, but I did it. I did it. And it's like,
Yeah.
Are you talking to the whale or are you talking to your ex-wife?
Now, of course, the sharks were circling around the boat at this point because you have a dead whale hung up and a bunch of blood just pouring out of it.
Cool.
Brutal.
Yeah, so you don't want to fall in to the water. But there's no safety harnesses. There's no OSHA-approved, stuff. And by the way, no one really knows the exact reason why, but the people in the whaling boat, for some reason, they all did it barefoot. All of them did it barefoot. We don't really know why. Don't really know. No, not for sure, at least.
Shoes are stifling. That's how I feel.
I think it's worth getting a barnacle in your foot once or twice just so you can feel the feeling of whale blood between your toes.
If that isn't living, I don't know what is.
I stubbed my toe again on a barnacle just so I can feel.
Yeah. That's what they said to
It's
me.
an Elliott Smith song.
Yeah.
Sorry. Now, they would score the flesh every few feet of the whale, and then they would peel it back, and then they would peel the blubber away. Just like peeling an orange. They would peel it back after they scored it. They'd peel it back, and they would hand it down to the ship. What it was is they were cut into like these larger strips, and those were called blanket pieces of blubber. And that was hauled down to the deck of the ship where they were cut into smaller pieces, and these smaller pieces were called horse strips. And so that made them easier to manage, so they could cut them into even smaller strips called Bible leaves, because they looked like Bibles, right? So they would chop them into increasingly smaller pieces.
Right.
I'm never eating whale again, guys. This is so gross.
I was when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, there's a place where you see a whale that's been cut up.
Yeah.
And they have like strips
Torn away.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I took a picture of it and put it on my PS4 thing, and I called it whale strips.
Yeah. It's
And I was posing.
It's quite literally what they would do.
Yeah.
The ship's cooper would start a fire down in the blubber room to start rendering the blubber into oil. And what you'd do is, it was called it was called trying out the blubber.
Try it out.
No, you
And,
gotta try it out before you buy it.
the stove that they would make this fire in was called the tryworks, and the oven on top with a big pot of blubber that's going inside was called the tripot.
Oh.
And what you would do is you'd start it with wood to begin with. As the blubber was boiled down and reduced, flakes would rise to the top, and you'd skim those flakes off the top. And because, as we all know, blubber is a great fuel source, you take those like dry pieces that floated at the top and you would put them into the fire. So you'd keep it sort of efficient, and it would keep burning that way.
And you taste it, and you add a little salt. And you taste it. Maybe get
Reminds
a
me
second
of
opinion.
I was watching the chef show with John Favreau, and they're cooking matzo balls.
Yeah.
And once the matzo balls get cooked, they come to the surface.
Yeah. Well, the rendering of the blubber into oil stunk to high heaven.
Oh, I bet.
And it covered like when we were talking about Shackleton being covered in like black soot from burning the seal blubber.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what happened to everyone on board. But they're also covered in, whale oil, and they're covered in whale blood. And it stinks like you can't fucking imagine.
I bet it smells pretty good if you embrace it.
No, even the saltiest of seamen, it makes their nose twitch.
But you,
That's kind.
That's like
Bitches.
straight out of the book I read from this.
makes their nose twitch. They get submarine nose. Isn't that what you call it? When you can't smell stuff?
I think that was
don't know.
COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Now, once the blubber was stripped all the way off the whale, its head was cut off, because inside the head, it was the most valuable part of the whale. Inside the head was a sac.
The pituitary gland.
No, it was a sac that was filled with something called spermaceti.
Hey, it's spermaceti in the
Mamma mia!
And we still don't really know what the function of this sac is in their head, of a whale's head. Some people say that it's to mitigate the pressure change, because they dive very deep and then they come back up, that it mitigates that. Some people say that it has to do with their echolocation communication, but we don't really know.
It
So,
gets them super high and rock hard.
but what it is it is the purest, most valuable refined oil. It doesn't need to be rendered.
This is
Doesn't need to be
ambergris?
rendered. No. We'll get to
getting
that.
there.
We'll get to that. This is it's spermaceti. It is the best for making candles and fuel out of. And
I want to know
most
an
valuable.
Italian guy named Spermaceti.
Oh, I know. Come on down to Spermacetis. I used to do pornography. Now I make candles. The best candles in town.
Don't ask what they're made of.
Yeah. They're all
Illegal-
shaped like penises. My penis back from when I did adult films.
You have to sign a contract that you don't ask what the candles are made of.
yeah.
So
It's whale blubber.
The
It's
shit-
in 2020.
I was going to say the Shapes of Dead giveaway. They're jizz candles. Ah, there goes another $5.
Yeah, you gotta put it in
Crisp $5 bill. Jerry just threw it in the fire.
Yep.
I saw that, yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
I don't know why we have a fire going. It's not a fireplace here.
Oh,
So yeah, no, that's so crazy though. The fact that this fucking part of the whale doesn't have to be rendered down.
Yeah, it's already oil.
It's
Yeah.
already oil, so I can definitely see why scientists would think that it would help with pressure or with their echolocation.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's not echolocation, but their
But-
their whale songs.
That's what it is.
their
yeah.
communication.
Well, it is echolocation.
Oh, is it really?
They make a noise because they actually have very poor eyesight. Because
That I
they
did not
don't
know.
because they don't need it to get food. Because they dive down into the water. And this goes with this. They dive down into the water, and what they eat are giant squids, which only are alive in the bottom reaches of the ocean,
Right.
and they can't survive the upper reaches. And the thing is the sperm whale's teeth aren't designed to bite or cut like a land animal, carnivorous land animal has.
they're filters.
It's it's tooth. They have teeth. We're not talking about baleen.
Okay.
Baleen are filters.
Baleen are the filters. No, these are teeth. And they're designed, the jaws of a sperm whale are designed to latch on and hang on. That's it. They're designed to latch on and hang on.
They're not for chewing, they're for grabbing.
Exactly, because here's what
the
happens.
hands of the mouth.
Well, here's
Yeah.
what happens is because they're not trying to chew up the giant squid, which is about their size in some cases. All they're doing is latching onto it, and they're launching further up where pressures aren't quite as great. So what happens is once they get to a certain elevation, I guess, in the water, the squid explodes, and the whale eats that.
So, whoa.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Whoa.
I
That's
didn't know
what
that
happens.
about that. The interesting, just slight digression, the colossal squid, which we never really knew existed, which is
Yeah.
essentially a fucking kraken.
Well,
Right.
that's what these things eat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slightly bigger species than the giant squid. We only knew they existed because we saw sucker prints on
Yeah.
beached
Sperm
sperm
whales.
whales.
'Cause they're
and
trying
we're
to
like,
eat
this
it.
isn't like anything we've ever seen. And we eventually did find one at some point.
looks like that sperm whale bit off a little bit more than he could chew.
But I just think it's super cool that, like, I mean, the fucking shit in the ocean we don't even know about.
Yeah.
It's pretty recently that we've actually found
Very recent.
colossal squid. I mean,
James
like,
Cameron will sort it out.
I mean, there's so many animals that like live down there, fish and whatnot, that cannot survive even close to our pressure. So they just balloon up, and get
They
gross.
blow up.
Like there's that blobfish
Right.
that, like, you see that picture and you're like, oh, it's super ugly. And
That's not what it looks
when it's
like
down
down
there.
there,
It's
though.
still ugly, but it's different kind of ugly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's how they eat.
Pretty much.
That's how they're designed to eat, because their bodies, through thousands of years of evolution, have been able to stand the pressure difference of the ocean, whereas the squids do not.
It's like if I could fly, the way I'd get back at a lot of the people that have done me wrong over the years is I'd get them and I'd just take them up into the sky.
Yeah.
And that's what the whales are doing.
drop
that
'em.
is. The
Yeah,
fact
that-
that they
yeah.
know to do that, because they know the pressure difference, is honestly remarkable.
They saw this. Their great grandpa, who was a psycho, do it the first time, and they were like, "That guy's a genius, and he's also cold blooded as shit."
Yeah.
But he's not cold blooded. He's warm blooded because he's a mammal.
By the way,
Science.
before we move on, the largest invertebrate in the world are the giant and colossal squids.
There you go. So
Also, cephalopod.
But
Yep.
there you go. Now, if you again think of yourself as a 14-year-old cabin boy, they would take the smallest one of you and they would make you go down into the head and bail out the spermaceti. They'd make you bail out with buckets. There's 500 gallons of this shit inside of a whale's head.
Jesus.
Whoa!
And you got to get down in there into the stinking head and bail it all out.
A regular
That
Jack Quaid in there.
is disgusting.
That's
Boys
500 gallons
reference.
of milk.
Spoiler
It's
alert, I don't give a
disgusting.
shit.
You cut like a hole into it, you try to drain it. There's all sorts of stuff. Anyway, but once the head was cut, once all the blubber was gone, you had to plumb the intestines of the whale.
Hell
You
yeah.
had to poke through it.
You got to get rid of the poopy.
No, not poopy. You were looking for the most valuable substance you could find in a whale.
I've been talking about this whole time.
The ambergris. Now, what ambergris is from... So, when a whale does eat a giant squid, the only thing it can't digest is the beak of the squid.
Mantle.
The beak of the squid.
Same thing.
Oh, fuck.
So, what it does is when it goes inside, it cuts up their insides. It cuts up their insides a little bit, and what happens is it's almost like a indigestion, but it's cut up on the inside. So what happens is it scabs over, and it becomes a little infected before it heals, and the byproduct of that is ambergris.
It's like
pus.
It's a pestilent cut inside of a whale's intestine.
Oh my god, that is so much grosser and more brutal than I ever thought.
It's easier to say it's puke because it's sort of it's mixed with the digestive fluid that kind of gives it the magic.
So it gives it. They eat a giant squid, a colossal squid, one or the other. They're different species. It's fucking the same thing. Who cares? And it rips up their insides, and they're like totally worth it.
Yeah,
it's like eating Taco Bell.
Yeah, or Domino's.
Right, guys?
Yeah,
fast food.
Yeah,
it's like drinking beer all night.
Yeah.
Oh god,
who would do that? Not us.
I certainly didn't do that on Tyler's birthday.
Yeah,
make some decisions. I regretted about
music choices.
Oh, I don't regret the music choices. I regret my actions.
The reactions.
There you go. To the music choices.
Anyway, this ambergris is worth more than its weight in gold. And it is used in perfumes, the finest of French perfumes. Yep. Basically, the reason why they use it is because it's a preservative. And so, if you were to spray the perfume the day you bought it, it guarantees that if you spray that perfume again a year later, it'll smell exactly the same.
Like fish guts. Whale guts.
How in the fuck did they figure this shit out?
I have no idea.
That's a great point.
I have no idea.
That is a really good point. Like, somebody's like, hey, you know this gross-ass fucking whale goo that I found in its brain? I'm going to put that in perfume.
No, not the
in
brain.
its intestines.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I was...
I would put that in perfume.
But still, it all goes back to one guy
great.
looking out into the ocean at the dawn of human consciousness and saying, we need to build boats and we need to go kill that. And we'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everything else was like, oh, did you know that you could do this with this? Oh shit, I've been throwing that away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It started with just, we gotta go out there and we gotta kill this thing.
Yeah, why? I don't know, I'm hungry.
We're hungry.
Yeah.
A bunch of pus that we found in a whale's intestines that were caused by it eating a squid and scratching up its insides. I'm gonna put that in perfume.
Yeah, right.
And I bet you even all of that was... if we go out and we kill that thing and we bring it back, I bet you we're all going to get laid.
Well, it gets you rich. If you get ambergris, oh my god, you got it made, brother. Because that shit is worth a shit ton. It's better than striking gold. It's better than striking gold. Well, ambergris is worth more than gold.
Considering the circumstances, I mean, is it in every sperm whale? Like,
no.
It's probably pretty limited.
No,
it's not
necessarily.
It's not like the oil or that shit in the brain part you were talking about where it's going to be in there.
It's always going to be there, yeah.
Where it's caused by specific events.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It's like finding a pearl, basically.
Yeah. It's not uncommon. It's just not... It's not always going to happen.
It's not guaranteed.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Do you think there's ever been, like, two guys who find the ambergris inside the whale, and they're like, oh my god, we found it. And they're like, everything okay down there? Nothing down here.
And they just, like, stuff their jackets
We're
with
gonna
this
be rich.
foul stench.
It's like Daniel
they were already
Plainview.
inside the whale. It's fine. Everyone's sneaky.
They're going to figure it out.
Men have murdered men
nasty.
for ambergris.
I wanna
guarantee it.
That's probably the truth.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'd watch that movie.
I know we all talk... I said it's like Daniel Plainview, and I want to bring that up again.
A whole ocean of oil beneath my feet.
Yeah.
No one can get at it but me.
He said that while he was standing on a sperm whale.
Yeah. It would honestly not be inaccurate.
It's kind of almost the same movie.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the jaw was actually tied to a rope and dragged behind the ship until all the scavenging sea creatures could pick away the meat. And then it was pulled back up, and the teeth were picked off of it and given to the men
As trophies.
So they could carve them. And what they would do is they would rub ash over the top of it, it would give it like a color fill.
Yeah.
This is a type of folk art called scrimshaw.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so you'll see those like whale teeth that have like carved boats into
It's
them
like
and whatnot.
in Grim Fandango, because they're all skeletons.
Yeah.
Instead of tattoos, they have scrimshaw.
They have scrimshaw.
Yeah.
Nice. Now the foul stench of the dead whale and burning and rendering of blubber was immense and inescapable. And it, again, stunk to high heaven. And thoughts of changing clothes and washing had to be pushed aside during this
Because you're only going to...
Because you're just going to ruin your clothes. And a lot of green hands, they would change clothes in between their shifts. Mm-hmm. And they would end up ruining all their clothes.
Right.
And what happens is you could buy more clothes from, like, the ship's store. But, like, anyone that's ever been to, like, Disneyland...
Yeah.
Like, when you buy stuff out of necessity like that, it's always, like, the price is always jacked way up. And, of course, it's coming out of your pay.
Well, if you could buy it... I mean, if they have clothes on the ship, I would imagine the fucking price skyrockets.
Oh, it skyrockets.
And you've already ruined your tuxedo by...
Exactly.
Yeah. So, like, the other, like, more salty guys, they weren't even going to warn them. They're like, nope, this is something you have... This is a mistake you have to make.
Teaching moment.
Yeah, you have to make this mistake, It's like eating cocoa powder. Mm-hmm. It's like you have to make that mistake.
I've done that when I was a kid, being like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna eat this Hershey. Oh shit.
Well, because even if somebody tells you, dude, that's not good, you have to make that mistake. You have to go.
To be honest,
I don't believe you.
I agree with that on a lot of things. I feel like people are critical of people like being like, I told them, and it's like sometimes you just gotta learn for yourself.
You gotta do it. You gotta make that mistake.
If people really learned from other people's mistakes, there wouldn't be mistakes anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
people are stupid.
Some mistakes you just gotta make yourself. Water had to be readily available at all times on the ship because any spark or any fire, other than the one that was contained down,
everything's flammable.
It's so flammable, and it could ignite a ship just like that.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I bet that's happened.
Oh,
like a ship went down.
Oh, yeah. And that's why you had to have water all over the place.
Wow. That's nuts.
Good thing they're on the water.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's true.
Just get broadside hit by a squall and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, and during this whole process, the crew would work in 6-hour shifts around the clock because it would get rotten unless you did something about it. So you had to work around the clock. And sometimes, depending on the size of the whale, this could take up to 5 days.
Damn.
This whole process could take up to 5 days. And that's, looking for more whales to bring back in. This is hard work, man. This is hard, disgusting,
what I want to say is
stinky work.
The green hands who made almost no money off of this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like for that to be, like, this is still a better job than what's ever back home.
It's the only respectable job because
that's what it is.
You could still be a farmer, but they look down on you for being a farmer.
Yeah. What are you, gay?
Jesus.
It's a joke. It's a joke on the people who talk that way.
I know.
So my whole thing again is they're fucking 14-year-old kids.
Yeah.
That are doing this shit.
They were going inside the head and like bailing.
Yeah, but those kids. You're like you're only 14. They're like I've been doing this since I was 7.
Yeah, but I do not trust 14-year-old boys. I don't trust any fucking teenage boy.
Well, a 25-year-old told a 14-year-old to get down inside that head and bail
I don't
out
fucking
that
trust
boy.
25-year-olds. Like, shit.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I know.
there's
I know.
25-year-olds that come to our bar that we go to, and we're just like, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing?
It's true.
They drink like half a beer, puke all over themselves. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, no, my absolute favorite is when a freshly turned 21-year-old girl went up to Cornelia and was like, what flavor gin do you guys have?
Flavor gin?
Yeah.
Gin flavor.
No, like Cornhole just looked at her and just went, juniper?
Yeah, juniper.
That sounds delicious. I'll have that. You fucking
what a fucking dumbass. I'm sorry. No, they're not a dumbass. They're just ignorant.
That's unfair. I mean,
if anything,
just ignorant.
I'm jealous of the bars in Kirkland and Bellevue because they clearly have flavored gin there.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's. I mean, I've been there, and
you ain't gonna find flavored gin at the Rendezvous.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Anyway, now the Essex had a slow start to their whaling season because the waters off the coast of Peru were deserted, and so they had to go further and further out. So what they did is they stopped for a resupply at the Galapagos Islands. Because there's a bunch of tortoises there.
Darwin.
Delicious.
Tortoises were prized for their meat.
Make great soup.
And they picked up like 100 tortoises off the island for their meat. And they knew that you didn't have to feed them for very long. Like they could live for a long time without food. But this is actually...
How many tortoises?
Like 100.
Oh, a shredder's dozen.
Yes. Sorry, that was really... That was very clever.
That was clever. That's not actually true. These tortoises were actually starving to death.
Oh.
But
they were like,
they
they'll
didn't
live
know
forever.
that. Yeah, they didn't know
And
that.
they didn't.
At least they didn't have to buy bowls.
Did they make soup out of them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They love tortoise meat.
We were talking about turtle soup recently, and I feel like you were like, oh, we're doing an episode.
Yeah.
I was like, what? On
Yeah.
turtle soup?
Sort of.
Because everybody want to make turtle soup out of the Ninja Turtles. Anyway.
Then they stopped again on George Island, which is now Florina Island, also to resupply with tortoises and whatnot. Now, as a practical joke, one of the helmsmen, Thomas Chappell, started a fire. I'm not sure what the joke was supposed to be, but he started a fire. And during this time, it was the dry season.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole island lit up.
That's a great prank.
And everybody barely made it out of this fire. Back onto the ship.
He's like, gotcha.
And, like, Pollard was like, if I catch the man who did this, I swear to God, I'm going to make him pay. So Chappell didn't speak up about this until much later.
Well,
on his deathbed.
that was when Chappell released his hit single Firestarter with the Prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. My name's Chappell, and I call this next prank Island Fire. The captain hates fires. This is going to be a great prank.
Well, what happened, too, is it caused the extinction of the Florina tortoise.
Are you fucking kidding me?
It's a real Johnny Cash.
And also the Florina mockingbird.
It's a real Johnny Cash.
Yeah, he started a fire in it, and it
killed like a whole species of bird.
Johnny Cash did that?
Burned.
Yeah.
Yeah, he crashed.
Is that what Ring of Fire's about?
No, Ring of Fire is about a vagina.
I
Is
thought
it?
that was about
I thought it was about
butthole after Taco Bell.
It was about vaginas.
It's about...
Ring of Fire is about vaginas.
I mean...
Anyway.
It's not really a ring. I don't know if he...
He used burning that entire species alive as a metaphor for vaginas.
But yeah, the island was desolate.
Destroying
after,
an entire species
this
of bird
fire.
sure makes me horny.
Makes me make bad decisions about who I make love to.
Yeah. But yeah, people went back to it and they were like, oh, it's charred. There's nothing on that island. It's totally just charred.
It's a solid prank.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what he thought was so funny about it, but anyway.
It was like, I call this decimating entire population.
Yeah, burning down a whole island.
Yeah. So what happened to the dodo?
Yeah.
Solid prank.
Solid prank.
Spanish Inquisition. Solid prank.
Now, the men of the Essex were indeed busy by the time they reached this remote area of the Pacific, pulling in 8 whales. And they worked round the clock for these 8 whales. You know,
Things are looking up.
they're looking up. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. They're
I've never even
actually
got one whale, so...
Yeah, they're kind of like they're working. You know, so it's going well.
Going whale?
I hate you.
There's the dad jokes.
He's a dad, so he has to make dad jokes.
They're having a whale of a time.
Nice. So on November 16th, 1820, the Essex spied a whale pod and launched 3 of the boats. Now, keep in mind, they only have 3 boats, but they saw a whole pod of whales, so they were like, just go for it.
Is it still
Just
sperm
go for
whales?
it. Yeah.
Is it always sperm whales?
Yeah. Yep.
They don't go after orcas or
No, they don't. They don't.
whale sharks
Nope.
or mahi-mahi.
That's tuna.
Mahi-mahi's a dolphin fish, technically. Remember, we talked about this in the Thor Heyerdahl episode.
It's still a tuna to me.
Quit your blubbering.
Tyler's on a roll.
I like where this is going. All right.
Glad Andrew's not here anymore. God damn.
Now, the 3rd boat was damaged by a whale almost immediately and needed to be repaired on board the Essex. And the only 2 men on deck were the cabin boy, Thomas Nickerson, at the helm, all of 15 years old or whatever.
I feel like if this was a movie, he would be played by the late Anton Yelchin.
Oh, that's good casting. That's good casting.
Since he's out of the picture, he'd probably be Tom Holland.
Also good
Actually,
casting.
pretty good casting.
Also good
Yeah.
casting. And the first mate, Owen Chase. And Owen Chase was fixing the boat. He was hammering ping, ping, ping on the.
Jerry's making a hammering motion with his arm just for the folks at home.
Yeah.
He said ping, ping, ping. Well,
I
they're
said
not
ping,
stupid.
ping, ping.
Yeah, you know.
Okay. Anyway, just then, a massive sperm whale bull was spotted near the Essex, but it was acting strangely. This 85-foot sperm whale was almost as big as the boat itself.
So cool.
It started like circling around the boat like cautiously,
Ooh.
and it would appear like a bunch of yards away and like stick its head up
Is this the strange
down.
behavior?
and then go back down.
Wait. This is the Leviathan?
This is the Leviathan.
Oh my god, my dick is diamonds.
I was like, he's acting strangely. Is he like, quoting Alex Jones? Or
It's
he's like, you gotta watch Joe Rogan.
It doesn't
Get
appear.
him.
Yeah, it's circling around them and like again like it looks like it's looking at them, like studying them, and they notice that on its head are these giant scars all over it.
Oh, hell yeah.
So something had happened to this whale at some point.
Well, and I think that the tear tattoo that it had on its cheek was also kind of a dead giveaway.
That's how many boats it sank.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah.
it's been in prison. How it views the world as prison.
Yeah. And yeah, it surfaced several hundred yards away from the ship and then raced towards the ship, pumping its tail vigorously. So like it's creating this giant wake behind it.
Boss
And
fight.
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like Chase sees this happen and he screams over to Nickerson, "Hard up!" Which means to like turn the ship so the whale doesn't hit it, you know. But it was too late because the ship is big and it takes a while to respond to the rudder, right? So it was too late. The whale rammed the side of the ship and it like knocked it backwards. This whole ship, this 87-foot ship, backwards.
Wow.
And then like they were like, I will never forget that noise that it made, like the shattering and it shuddered and shook when this
must
happened.
have been louder than God. Like,
Yeah, it, and they were like, oh fuck, and like instantly like the cook comes out and he's like, there's water coming in the ship.
Played by
And-
Andy Serkis.
There you go. They're like, oh no, the whale wasn't done though. It turned around and rammed it again. This time, sort of lodging its head into the hull of the ship.
Wow.
So much so that it tried to like dislodge it and shook the whole ship as it was trying to like
Because it's
get
like got
off
a
of its
ship
head.
stuck on its head.
Yeah, and it finally ripped off and then went away, never to be seen again.
Well, there's an enormous
There's
hole in the
a
side.
giant hole in the ship.
Everyone in the crew was like, I don't understand why he was so mad at us.
With sperm whales, is
What's
like
with that guy?
is ramming. Do they like ram each other? Or is that like a defense mechanism?
I
They got that big fucking square head. It looks
Yeah,
like they can
yeah.
fucking ram things.
full of that sperm
Sperm.
spermaceti
Yeah.
that lessens the blow, right? So yeah, they don't ram ships normally. They don't normally do this.
Well, I'm wondering if they ram something. Each other, maybe like males ram each other. I don't know. I'm just curious if that
we
was
don't-
like a.
Well, I don't know, but we don't really know this whale's motives for doing it.
They didn't
But some
ask it?
people speculate that it was the hammering on the nails that Owen Chase was doing, because of course they have echolocation, and the strong sound may have like pissed it off, or the fact that they were out there literally hunting its family. You know,
I mean, I don't know how much it
Could've been a
understands. I
thing.
mean, whales are smart, but
they're very smart, and I don't know.
I'm
the
sure he
understanding,
viewed
but
the ship as a threat for whatever reason.
I mean, he did ram it. Yeah, the men in the whale boats, they were towing their catches back to the Essex, and they noticed that the Essex disappeared over the horizon. And they were like, what the fuck? So then they had to make the horrible decision where they're like,
Gotta drop the catches.
cut it loose, because we got to get back to the ship. So they had to cut the whales loose, and by the time they got back,
Were those whales dead at that point? I mean,
They were dead,
So they're
yeah.
just leaving dead whales
They were
out
leaving
there?
dead whales.
That fucking sucks.
They're
Yeah.
pretty much opening
Two.
bags of money and dumping them into the ocean.
exactly.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Giant bags of money. And so when they got back, they were finishing unloading like stores and stuff into the boat that they had. Pollard gets back and everyone's just speechless. And for a long while, everyone just didn't say anything. And finally, Captain Pollard said, "Chase, what happened?" And Chase said, quote, "We've been stoved by a whale," which is intense. It like what irony, what vicious irony is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Stoved?
Stove.
Like
yeah.
you're getting, like the whale's laying some pipe?
You got
You got
fucked by a
rocked.
whale.
Yeah, you got fucked
Yeah.
by a whale.
You got rocked.
Yeah. And so what they did, this is common practice, you tie up your smaller boats to, like, the sinking boat. It's to make sure that you, because as we learned in the Shackleton episodes, keep going back as much as you can, back and forth, to get anything that might still be salvageable off the ship before it sinks. So, for several days, that's what they did. Luckily, they got some navigational equipment, some guides to navigating the Pacific, which were invaluable, turns out.
Right.
And they got some food stores and whatnot. And what they did is they had 3 boats, and they divided up the food stores evenly amongst the 3 boats, and gave each commanding officer, being Matthew Joy, the second mate, Owen Chase, the first mate, and Pollard, they each got a gun, just in case. And, yeah, and...
How many dogs? How many bullets?
No dogs in this one, unfortunately.
How many dogs are you going to tell us about their deaths this time, Jerry?
Well, when we go back on the ice,
Yeah.
that's like what happens when you're on the ice.
You kill dogs.
Yeah, well, you need dogs, right? Back
it.
in those days.
Yeah.
When it finally disappeared into the water, Pollard had to form some sort of plan as to what to do next. They were stranded 2,000 miles away from the coast of South America.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah, and Pollard initially suggested that they aim for the Society Islands or the Marquesas, or even Tahiti, which were all closer
Where's
to
the
South America.
Marquesas?
The Marquesas, that's where Kurt LeMay had his closest airbase, if I remember that correct. Also, I believe that's where Thor Heyerdahl took the Kon-Tiki to, was one of the islands in the Marquesas.
No shit.
French Polynesia.
Just bringing it all back.
Yeah.
So, is the... Wait, no, that's a different... Bikini Atoll is where they tested the nukes.
Yeah, yep.
But...
Now, the crew fervently disagreed with this plan, however, because they had heard rumors that the inhabitants of these islands were...
Cannibals.
Cannibals!
Yep. Sweet. I bet they weren't.
They weren't.
And they never are.
Honestly, if they would have picked up a newspaper just weeks before they left, they would have seen an article in the Nantucket newspaper that there was a thriving monastery, like where English monks were going, in Tahiti. And actually a pretty solid population there. They could have gone to Tahiti and it would have been fine.
You dumb fucking teenagers.
Yeah.
They should have listened to Dutch.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes, exactly. And the problem was, they had enough food and water for maybe 60 days. Not nearly enough time to get to South America. Not nearly enough. Especially in these boats. And they're jerry-rigging sails, you know. And to their credit, they are great mariners to keep these boats afloat and sailing for as long as they did.
You don't have to get down on your rigging skills, Jerry. I think they're really good.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
I think they should just go hang out with those cannibals. I bet there's lots of food there.
Yeah.
Probably Andrew rigging.
But but in their mind, South America was the only option. Only option. They had no choice but to ration their food stores, mainly hardtack. Do you guys know what hardtack is?
Is it like pemmican?
No.
They wish they had pemmican.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. Hardtack think bread, but think a very dense bread, and so hard that it will keep for months at a time.
Oh, it's what the elves eat in Lord of the Rings.
That's lambus bread.
Same fucking thing. I don't know.
It's like lambus bread, you take one bite and you're full. That's like the magical quality of it. But hardtack it needs to be soaked in water first, or it needs something with it, because you can crack a tooth on this stuff.
So it's a crouton.
It's
sounds worse than a crouton.
It's the world's
Crouton?
hardest crouton. Densely packed crouton.
Which, by the way, it's crazy how much Jerry knows about lambus bread, you fucking nerd.
I know, I was like...
I'm a nerd.
Well, it's part of our history.
Yeah.
The history of Middle Earth.
So only receiving a fraction of their daily intake calories to sustain bodily function the men slowly started to descend into starvation.
I thought you were saying madness.
Well, also madness. Days after they were marooned in the middle of the Pacific, they were attacked again, this time by a killer whale, or an orca. And it damaged one of their boats. And actually, it tore a hole in one of their boats, and they, stuffed stuff in it. And what they had to do, one man, Benjamin Lawrence, because they didn't have very many nails salvaged, what they had to do is do something called clinching a nail. And you normally do this on deck, but you nail it from the bottom into a hard surface that you're holding on the other side, so it turns the nail around into itself. Oh. It's called clinching a nail. Basically to make the nails go further, right? And it worked, but this dude dove onto the ship to do this. Oh, which is insane. And actually, something that's super crazy is not everyone on this ship knew how to swim. Oh. Which is crazy that you were going to go on a 3-year whaling journey on the middle of the ocean and not know how to swim. That's insane to me.
Yeah, that's so crazy. For me, the easiest solution would be find the biggest boy in the boat and make sure that they have their ass sticking out. Mm-hmm. Fill the hole.
Big old booty.
Yeah.
You're
good to go.
I
Save
say
the nails.
I'm as good at swimming as I am at driving a stick shift.
Yeah.
I can do it to save my life. Well, and that's about it.
Well, and I was gonna say, I don't know how to use a parachute, but I fly on planes all the time. So,
they don't give you parachutes.
Wait, what about under your? I thought that was.
That's a flotation device.
It's not a parachute.
Not an air flotation.
No, didn't you watch Fight Club? The oxygen gets you high, and you accept your fate.
Yeah.
You don't need a parachute.
Just believe everything from Fight Club.
If the plane is crashing, Tyler, you're gonna die.
I don't know.
No.
Statistically speaking.
Statistics.
You die!
A lot of people die, right? But
most of them.
Statistics say that at least somebody's got to survive at some point.
So it's not going to be you.
I think I could be that
It's
man.
usually the black box.
Yeah. Why not just make the whole plane out of the black box?
I was going to say it, too. If it's the only thing that survives, why don't you make the people out of black boxes?
Yeah.
Now, another thing they found on the bottom of the boats, though, and this is a little later, but what they found was Benjamin Lawrence, he was the only one willing to do any of this stuff, but he found gooseneck barnacles underneath the boat.
Delicious.
They are a delicacy. They are very delicious. And they're actually farmed here in Washington State.
Are those scallops, or...?
No, it's a barnacle.
I've never eaten a barnacle.
It's seafood, man.
I love seafood.
Oh, you would love these.
I love scallops. I love oysters.
They ate these suckers raw, and they all loved them.
I love sockeye salmon.
I see food and I eat it.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fermented shark that somebody pissed on.
Now, during some of the hotter days, with no wind, because what ended up happening is they would be hit by squalls, where they have to clutch onto these small boats, or they were there were just days and weeks of just no wind, and the sun beat down on you. No shade. So you got sunburn as fuck, and you're just not moving. And you know you're not moving. And it's just the most maddening thing you can imagine. And you're starving, you're running out of water, you have just enough to sustain life, but not necessarily to, keep you healthy, right?
Talk about a case of the doldrums.
Yeah. This is when you really think the babes are all laughing at you.
Yeah, those babes are probably, not excited about the situation.
Yeah. Well, some of them would hang off the side of the boat, in the water to get away from the sun, maybe cool down. But they were becoming so weak from not having food that they couldn't get back into the boat.
Titanic.
And luckily, luckily some of the people that couldn't swim stayed in the boat and helped them back in.
They're like, sorry, I can't go in the water.
Yeah.
I can't swim.
Yeah.
Well, I learned to swim because I'm a responsible human being, so I guess I'll fucking die in the water.
So yeah, it was a bad idea to do that.
They're we only have 1,000 more miles to go.
Thousands of miles to go. And it was hard to tell longitude, because you have to tell that by, if you don't have proper things, you have to tell that by the moon and the stars. But it was easier for them to tell latitude, because that's by the sun. And so they could tell latitude fairly easily, but longitude they were pretty iffy, and they had to kind of rely on dead reckoning. So it goes out the window fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. So they're lost, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, they can go up and down.
Yeah, in the water.
They can bob around until they die.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
That's what they get from fucking killing all those whales. Man.
Yeah.
They
Fucking
were
dumb teenagers.
They were just holding out, like, they were making a way towards South America, but they were holding out for maybe another whaling vessel to come by and find them. But
That's a
chance
big
of that,
fucking...
you're in the
hope.
middle of the goddamn Pacific Ocean.
Don't worry, somebody's gonna help us.
Yeah, it's a
gonna be
needle.
fine.
It's a needle in a haystack. You know.
And then they gotta share their pemmican with all these
They
losers.
don't have pemmican.
They wish they had pemmican.
No,
Hardtack.
I mean the boat that finds them has to share their pemmican.
They have better shit.
Okay.
You see,
anyway.
again,
They
this
have
is,
pemmican light.
yeah.
Nice.
Ooh.
like this is the whole dumbass illusions of teenage boys. It's like,
Well,
no,
yeah.
no, it's okay. Somebody will come out. Dude, just like how Becky
That's-
will kiss me next Thursday.
If
Well,
I come
that's-
back with a full whale, Becky's gonna kiss me.
What other hope do you have, though? What other hope do you have? You either hope to get to South America, fat chance of that, or to be found by another boat. Those are your only two
Yeah.
hopes, and you have to keep those hopes close to yourself, because if you lose those hopes, you're gonna die.
What I'm really hoping for is that those ships that save us have pemmican high life.
The champagne of pemmican.
So Pemmican High Life.
Another whaling boat's gonna pick us up, and they're gonna have pemmican high life, and they're gonna have babes, like way hotter babes than we had on our
It's
boat.
like we got babes, but we had to eat
They all
them.
sunk.
Well, at that point in time, I just start singing yacht rock.
Yeah.
And just start being
Steve
delusional.
Winwood.
Exactly.
Hall and Oates.
Bring me a higher love.
Yeah.
You making my dreams come true.
Nice.
With that
Hoo.
pemmican high life and a bunch of babes.
I like the idea of like having a yacht party and playing yacht rock, and it's a real yacht, like in modern yacht, and you have a bunch of babes. It's like a rap music video.
That's what I'm referencing.
But instead of like champagne, you just have like lumps of pemmican.
There's
you're-
a pool of pemmican that the girls are rustling in.
Yeah.
And you're stranded in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with no hope.
You're snorting
Sunburnt.
pemmican out of a $100 bill.
Yeah. So the hardtack that they did have became contaminated with salt water in between the squalls and times of no wind at all. And so what they would do is they would take the hardtack and they'd put it on like the side of the boat to like dry out. But what happened is all the water would leave the hardtack and just leave the salt. So when you have to eat the hardtack.
You got yourself a salt lick.
But once you eat it, it makes you thirstier. So all they're doing is exacerbating the situation.
Sounds awful.
It's terrible. It's salty ass hardtack now,
Well, not
and
to
you're
mention-
thirsty as fuck now.
You're leaving your hardtack on the windowsill to cool off, and all the neighborhood kids keep on stealing it.
Jesus.
Dude, Heathcliff is going to get a hold of that
Oh,
And
fuck.
Dennis
God.
the Menace.
Yeah.
And soon they ran out of drinkable water. So now you don't have anything to drink.
Time
What
to
about all
switch.
that water around them in the ocean?
Water everywhere. Not a drop to the
So
drink.
let's all have a drink.
Yeah.
I think I referenced.
Yeah.
That's a Simpsons reference, which I think I also did in
Shackleton.
Shackleton.
Yes, you did.
Probably every episode of Shackleton.
Yeah.
I believe so.
They did have some tortoises that they got from the boat.
I'll ring those boys out.
And so they butchered a few of those.
Lashed them
and-
together with their back hair.
Yeah, and they
Pirates of the Caribbean.
yeah they drank the blood from the tortoise, which would keep you in a pinch.
Rejuvenates
It
you.
would rejuvenate you in a pinch, but a lot of people couldn't keep it down. A lot of people, it didn't work for a lot of people. And
Plus,
even
if
the
you
people
did
that
keep
they
it down,
did,
It got you into a, just a horny rampage.
well, I'll tell you what it did do.
Yeah.
It caused massive diarrhea. Ooh, massive diarrhea.
I have that already.
And you're pooping over the side of the boat in front of all your friends.
I mean, are they really your friends at that point in time?
They're your only people you know in
I
the
feel
whole
like they're
world.
your closest friends ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're just hoping there's not too much blood in your diarrhea, because then a shark's gonna come up and get you ass first.
Yeah. So under the burning Pacific sun, dehydration and salt boils started to become a problem. So they become like caked in salt and stuff, and they get boils from it, and being in the water doesn't help. For exactly 1 month after the Essex sank, the men languished in these 3 boats for a month.
This is
One
way
month.
Shackleton.
Oh, well, whereas Shackleton was there for fortune and glory, these men were there a full century earlier just to try to make a living.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
When does it get spooky, Jerry?
Oh, dude. Okay, so hold on. On December 20th, 1820, they spotted land. Pollard, looking at his navigational guides, determined that it was the remote Doochie Island.
Dookie Island.
They circled the island before landing and firing the occasional gunshot to rouse any indigenous people that they feared may be cannibals that weren't there. It was uninhabited.
If you're
But they were
indigenous,
so
you a
terrified.
cannibal. That's why I go to Poland.
That's what they thought.
Polish people are cannibals.
Hey,
Yeah.
Ducci, we're friends of Spermaceti.
Spermaceti sends his regards.
Good.
I'm kidding about the Polish. They need a lot of support right now. They're protesting anti-abortion laws right now.
Yeah.
And soon we will be too.
Yeah. It's a window into our future.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Andrew. I mean, Chris.
Nice.
So anyway, essential oils.
Yeah. But no one appeared, so they decided that it was safe to land. Now, the island turned out to be mainly rock and coral. Like really sharp coral that if you were to walk over it barefoot, as many of them are, because they came back while they were in the whaling boats, so
Right.
many of them were barefoot.
They lost their shoes.
Lost their shoes. It's like walking over broken glass.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, I believe it.
I love that Annie Lennox
Yeah.
song. That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
It's about a whaling boat.
The island supported small amounts of vegetation, so they knew that there had to be some sort of groundwater somewhere. And once they landed, they straight away started looking for food and water. And there were seabirds and there were crabs. That's about it.
Don't
That's about it.
mess with the seabirds, is what I'm saying.
Well,
I
that
see
was all
far
they
with a go.
had to eat. And luckily, these weren't the crabs that were on Clipperton Island. These are crabs that you
I
could
was
eat.
so hoping you'd be like, turns out they were on Clipperton Island.
There were crabs you could
You
eat.
could eat them.
Which thank God for that. But it was in a transitional season, so the birds didn't last long, and the crabs didn't last long. So,
Yeah. I've seen you sparring with a gull.
yeah.
Well, and not to mention, like, the thing with the crabs is by the time you get them all broken down and cooked and you eat the meat, you've used more calories eating the crab than you're going to get from eating the meat.
That's actually true. I've cooked
That's what's
crab.
good for you. That's why it's good for you. It's like celery.
Crab is delicious, but
It is
Wait, you
delicious.
trying to tell me I need to eat more celery and crab?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do.
But you soak that
You
crab
really
in
need to
butter.
take better care of yourself,
I
and
do.
I only know that because of how badly I feel on the day to day. And if you feel half that bad, then it's a real issue.
Now, I'm just going to continue.
I'm done from the inside out. My boob's white.
Now, if they couldn't find a spring for this groundwater, then the groundwater on the island was completely useless to them.
Right.
If they can't find a spring, it's useless.
Basically mud.
Yeah, so they quickly realized that there was no way this island was going to support all of them indefinitely, and it might be a better idea to just get back in the boats. At least then, there was a possibility of being rescued by a passing ship, and at least they're going somewhere. But being on this remote island with things that aren't going to sustain the whole crew, and with dubious water, it might be a better idea to not spend a lot of time there. Precious time that you have. But they talked with each other and they're like, let's search this island. Let's search it out. And they kind of stripped it of resources, like any resource they had, they stripped it of. And they did find like a rock that had a little bit of fresh water coming out. Just enough to wet your lips,
That's all you need.
but nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, it's gotta be here somewhere. So in low tide, and only for about 30 minutes at a time, there was a small hole that produced drinkable water. So they dug this up and they filled like the cask they had with this fresh water, and they drank it and they drank it and they drank it, and like they were like, hey, only take sips at a time, you guys. Don't guzzle this down because you haven't had water in a while. You haven't had food in a while. You're gonna have insane cramps from this. Your body's gonna seize on you.
Right.
And they did. because it's hard when you're that thirsty. It's hard to hold yourself back.
Also, being a dumbass teenager, not listening to.
You're also you're also
Boys
20
will be
years old.
boys.
Yeah.
Locker room drinking.
I was thinking, God, we hang out too much. I was thinking locker rooms too.
Again, I was thinking of heavyweights. What's the lesson that we've learned today? Never put Twinkies on your pizza.
No.
The fuck is heavyweights?
I love heavyweights.
Ben Stiller?
Ben Stiller? Jerry Stiller?
No,
It was about a fat camp.
It's a fat camp.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about I have no idea. What you're
The only line I remember in heavyweights is that one kid goes, Ben Stiller comes in because he's supposed to be like the taskmaster, and he goes, "Who did all this?" And one guy goes, "Seymour Butts." And
Nice.
Ben Stiller goes like, "Who's Seymour Butts?" And he goes, "No one's Seymour Butts than you, Uncle Tony." They all laugh. It's funny. It's a funny movie.
Yep.
It's a bit of a Meatballs style movie.
I
Mostly The Shape of the Children.
Exactly.
It's a good movie.
They're all grown men. They can probably
You've never
kick my
seen
ass out.
Heavyweights?
No, I have.
I've never heard of heavyweights.
You've never seen
I've
Heavyweights.
never heard of heavyweights.
You should see it. It's a great 90s romp.
It is. No.
Or is it
I'm
really
surprised
2000s?
I haven't
No,
heard of it.
it's 90s.
Yeah.
I owned that shit on VHS as a kid.
95.
Yeah,
I googled
yeah.
it. 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hey.
Only? What?
You going to fat camp? No. Why would you say that? Because you're fat. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
It has Kenan Thompson in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude.
man. Dude, I like that movie.
He was a heavy kid,
Fuck you,
wasn't he?
Rotten Tomatoes. Anyway, back to
The
the.
only thing rotten on Rotten Tomatoes is the reviews, if you know what I mean.
So,
Got it.
back to heavyweights.
Anyway, so after waiting for the maximum of 5 days on the island, eating birds and drinking what water they could, Captain Pollard decided that they had to leave. So they packed up the water, they packed up some birds and a couple of crabs, and they announced that they were leaving. But 3 men, William Wright, Seth Weeks, and Thomas Chappell, they were the only white men that were not from Nantucket.
Mm-hmm.
They respectfully refused. They're like, we're going to stay. We're going to stay right here.
We're living that island life.
But no one put up a fight. Because the thing is you got 3 less men, that's 3 less people to feed. And if you think this is the best thing to do in this situation, good on you.
All those guys died.
Well, Pollard said, if I ever make it back, I swear I will send somebody to come and get you. I swear.
And that's when Wright, Weeks, and Chappell started Beach Boys version 0.5.
So Pollard wrote a couple of letters detailing what happened to the Essex, along with one letter to his wife, and he put them in a box and he nailed them to a tree on the island, and they bade their farewells. The first boat was headed by Pollard himself, the second boat was headed by Owen Chase, and the third boat by Matthew Joy. On December 27th, 1820, they shoved off and started out with the intention to maybe reach Easter Island.
Oh.
See those big old weird
It was the
heads.
closest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was the closest one. Now, within 3 days, they had exhausted the crabs and birds that they had taken from the island.
Should have taken more crabs.
Began to
They
starve
should
again.
they should have let those crabs get some rest.
You know, when you talked about them taking crabs and birds aboard, for some reason I pictured them putting them in a suitcase, and I laughed to myself.
Like, I got him right here. Like,
It's like
holding him up.
handcuffed to him.
Well, something they did do is, like, the officers slept on top of the food stores to make sure no one stole food while
They're going to be
everyone
like
was asleep.
slipped on top of the green hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, to kind of make sure that no one stole the food. And no one wanted to think about what it would be like if one boat ran out of food and the other didn't. Because then you might have to, like, beat your friends to death with the oars you have to save yourself.
Been there.
No one wanted to think about that, but it's becoming a reality here. With their thirst satiated for the moment, hunger was the bigger problem. Because the thing is thirst, when you are really thirsty and you have a lot of water, you're all right now. Whereas hunger, it takes much longer for you to recoup from that. It takes weeks for you to recoup from that. Whereas, like, water, you give a man water and he kind of comes back to life.
Yeah.
Right? So, hunger was the bigger issue, more pressing issue, as they were going on. So they kept cutting rations again and again and again as the boats kept getting tossed by squalls, and then days of annoying calm with no wind at all, and of course the blistering heat. And something that they kept realizing is that they were floating back and forth. Sometimes they were further away than when they first started. Like when the Essex first went down, they were further away than when they first started. So that was, how are you supposed to, like the stoic resolve that they must have had to keep up hope, it must have been just insane. Insane.
Well, when it's all that you got.
It's all you have. It's all you have.
They're harder men than I.
Yeah. A large shark actually harassed the boats. And,
hey, fucker. Yeah.
Hey, fuck you, motherfucker.
Owen Chase picked up a lance and tried to stab the shark. This is a big-ass shark, by the way. Tried to stab the shark, but didn't have the strength to pierce through its skin. Yeah. So he's like hitting it.
Because if you did kill it, that'd be some food.
It would be. Yeah. It would be, but didn't have the strength to kill it.
I've had shark.
So it swam away.
It was gross.
Plus you can get those sweet necklaces.
It was fermented, though. I've also had not fermented shark, and it's pretty good.
Gordon Ramsay tells me that shark fin is actually a tasteless, disgusting food that should not be eaten by anybody.
I haven't had shark fin.
I agree. I've never had it, but I agree that it shouldn't be eaten by anybody. It's a wasteful practice.
Oh, I agree with that.
Apparently, shark fin tastes exactly the same as 75% of the contestants for the first 3 weeks of Chopped.
Yeah.
Or no, MasterChef.
MasterChef. There you go. Anyway.
I don't watch that show. I don't know what you're talking about.
If you had it prepared correctly, you'd be like, finally some good fucking food.
It's food porn shows.
Yeah.
So on January 4th, 1821, they resolved that they had drifted too far south and that it was hopeless to get to Easter Island. Because they thought that maybe the trade winds could take them, but they never could get it. So now they made for Masse Terra, another island.
Mar-a-Lago.
No. Now, Matthew Joy, who was a sickly man to begin with at the beginning of the voyage...
It's like Wendell.
Yeah, he was in the worst shape of all. And as his condition deteriorated, he asked to be moved to Pollard's boat so that he could die among his fellow Nantucketers.
What a fucking dildo.
Dude, that was something that people did, man. Honestly, that's something people did.
Somehow it's going to make it better. I don't know, whatever.
It's just...
He'll go to Nantucket heaven.
That's that's something that they, believed in. That's something that they did, so...
He dies, and he's like, I'm in heaven, let me see y'all's dicks. And they're just regular size. He's like, it's not Nantucket heaven, god damn it!
Yeah.
None of these guys can suck their own dicks.
Went to regular heaven. There's only two.
Yeah.
Nantucket
and regular, yeah.
So, as is tradition... Joy's body was sewn into his clothes, and he was committed to the sea on January 10th.
Sewn into a horse.
Like Spartacus.
I don't know where they got it.
Spartan funeral.
So, Obed Hendricks took command of Joy's boat, and he realized the second that he took command that in Matthew Joy's delirium, in his death throes, he had not looked after the food stores very well.
Oh, no.
And it turns out that their boat only had 5 days of provisions left.
So how are they doing with fishing supplies? Because you're out in the fucking middle of the ocean. Get to fishing.
Okay, so here's the difference. There's no fishing poles. They don't have those. They're a whaling ship. Second off, remember Thor Heyerdahl, his balsa wood raft? How they... Underneath the raft, it created an ecosystem of fish that would constantly follow you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the genius of that boat. Is the balsa wood absorbs like algae and all these things that creates an
fish
ecosystem.
Are like
these whale boats, not so. Not the same. So you don't have all the flying fish all the time. You don't have all of the mahi-mahi around you all the time. You have nothing. And this particular area of the Pacific is known as a dead zone, with nothing in it.
So that's where the garbage patch is at.
The garbage patch floats around all the time. About the size of Texas, by the way. And
I would like to swim in the dead zone because it would be good because I'm always afraid that I'm going to get, when like fish... I'm afraid they're gonna bite my penis off.
Your fish isn't gonna brush against the
You should be more afraid about being in the dead zone to begin with.
Yeah.
I would rather be in the dead zone than have a piece of seaweed slightly brush up against my foot.
I don't like that feeling.
I don't like it.
Kelp.
What if it's a fish and he's going to bite my penis off?
What if it's the creature from the Black Lagoon?
And then I got to get out, and then all the babes are going to laugh at me because I don't have a wiener no more.
Or at least you've had significant shrinkage.
Yeah.
Yes. Seinfeld.
Yep.
The very next day, the 3 boats were hit by a squall, and they were separated. And they all knew that if they were separated, there's no hope of getting back together. They're all headed for the same place. That's
now
about
it's a
all
race.
you got. That's about all you got.
Oh, wacky races.
Yeah. So they were separated. And they didn't even have the strength or energy to raise a signal. Like, remember when we were talking about, like, Shackleton, like, signaling to Worsley by holding a candle next to the sail?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's an old trick that they knew, too. But they didn't have the energy to do even
Did they have
that.
sails on the...
Yeah, they
whaling,
did.
The whaling boats?
Jerry-rigged sails. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, to their credit, that they were even able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Hendrix's boat, Matthew Joy's former boat, was never seen again. Simply
Bye-bye.
never seen again. On January 18th, on Chase's boat, Richard Peterson died.
No.
So he was also sewn into his clothes and committed to the sea. As things looked darker and darker with every passing moment of every passing day, Chase tried to keep his men's spirits up. Anything to keep them from giving up, with varying degrees of success. Like, he would be like, you know, there's whaleboats all over the place. They told us to come out here. You know, I mean, come on, there's got to be somebody, you know. And it would work for a while, and then, like, his old tactics would stop working. But he did his best to, like, keep his men's spirits up.
He's like, guys, just come on a little bit further. We're going to get there. There's going to be monkey butlers. There's going to be so many babes. And they're not even going to laugh at how, you know, scrawny and covered in sores you are.
Yeah.
That's this year's look.
Yeah.
I've read that in Teen Vogue. It's fun.
Yeah.
And Teen Vogue, because remember, gentlemen, we are all mostly teenagers.
So on February 8th, the 43rd day at sea, Isaac Cole hopped to his feet. He started becoming erratic, behaving erratically. He asked for a napkin and a glass of water, like he was at a restaurant.
When do we get the menus?
Yeah, and then he fell down and went into very violent convulsions, meaning that he was dying of starvation, dying of thirst.
Right.
When it was over, Cole was dead. And they all stared at Cole's body, and no one wanted to say what was on all of their minds.
That he
Meat's back on the menu, boys!
Yeah. Chase wrote, quote, "We separated the limbs from his body and cut all the flesh from his bones. After which, we opened the body and took out the heart, and then closed it again, sewed it up as decently as we could, and committed it to the sea."
They've become the very cannibals that they feared.
Exactly.
I heard there were cannibals out there.
Yeah.
And there they are.
How ironic. There's no cannibals, except for them.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they roasted his organs and flesh on a flat stone and feverishly ate it. And because... actually, the heart, I guess, they ate the most. They feverishly ate the most.
His delicious courage.
Yeah. And because he was so emaciated, there wasn't a lot of meat on the bones.
You gotta get that viscera.
Yeah.
It's the last stuff to go.
There you go.
Well, I mean, they didn't have any problem getting salt for seasoning the heart. And also, the courage they got gave them what they needed to ask to speak to the manager. So...
Now, on Pollard's boat, they ran out of food on January 21st. Between then and January 28th, 4 of his men died. All of which they had no choice but to cannibalize. The sickening part of the whole ordeal was that the more the men died and were cannibalized, the more the food could stretch.
Mm-hmm.
The less mouths you had to feed.
Yeah.
Which is the worst, just the worst psychologically part about it.
Yeah, but it makes the most sense logically.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But could you imagine being that guy? You know?
I mean, if I was a dumb fuck teenager and it was between, yeah,
Your
totally.
contempt for the youth is very delightful.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying youths.
I hate them. We're always like, blah, blah, like, let's not talk shit about people from Nantucket or whatever, but, like, people under 25, Zach's like, fuck them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're eating each other.
No. It's psychologically extremely damaging. I mean, think about this. People in war, which are, I mean, let's face it, average, younger than this.
Historically, all teenagers.
All teenagers. 17, 18, 20, 21. That's about it.
Sure,
Yeah.
but not
You're
14.
No, maybe.
There's one person that's 14. On this, your average age is about 23, 25. Not so in World War I.
Oh, and you know if that 14-year-old survived, when they found him, he was 65 years old.
Now, it wasn't long, February 1st, before 16-year-old Charles Ramsdell made the horrific and inevitable suggestion to cast lots.
Oh, no.
They all reluctantly agreed. Do you guys know what casting lots means?
No,
It's
but
like
I'm
drawing
excited.
straws for who's going to die next.
Well, it means who are we going to kill
Yeah.
so we can eat.
Yeah.
So we can eat
I
it.
get that.
It is... I can't imagine what that must have been like for those people.
Well, who was the biggest boy?
Well,
That should have been the first
Well,
one.
the thing is
I'm kinda with
you cast lots, so whoever is chosen fairly,
Sure.
right? So that's what it is.
I think the German kid with all the
Gunther.
Gunta.
Augustus Gloop.
Augustus. Yeah, we're eating Augustus Gloop. I'm not drawing shit.
Is it shitty that the first thing I thought of was if I was the one whose lot got cast, I would slit my throat and jump into the water and be like, fuck y'all!
That's horrible. That's
Well-
horrible.
Everything's horrible.
It's either you're that guy or you're the guy who's eating the dude you just killed because he drew the short straw and you're like, this is a super crazy guy. I feel like really lucky right now to be with you guys eating this meal.
Well, it was actually like sheets that they had black circle on. Whoever got the black circle.
Okay.
That's what it was. A lot of people think it was straws or something like that. It's not that.
Matchsticks or whatever.
Yeah. Scraps of wood. Who
Chocolate
knows?
eclairs.
They played Magic.
They didn't eat them back then. They were only ceremonial.
You know what that reminds me of? There's a Michelin Web sketch where they're Arctic explorers and they're freezing to death in their tent and they're like, "It's been a pleasure serving with you, gentlemen." And then they're like, "Well, I'm just saying, Captain, can't we eat the Christmas ham? Like, we're gonna pull out a full Christmas ham." And he's like, "No, sir. We're Englishmen. We're not animals. That is a Christmas ham. It is meant to be eaten at Christmas." And it turns out they have like a bunch of food, and they're like, "No, that's my Christmas pudding." That's our Easter food, sir.
It'd be better to die.
It'd be better to die as Englishmen. So the one who drew the black mark was 17-year-old Owen Coffin.
Oh, what a name.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he was
Owen Coffin.
he was Captain Pollard's first cousin. And before the voyage, Pollard had swore to Owen's mother, Pollard's aunt, that he would look after the boy and keep him safe.
Oh. Well, now you're in a pinch.
Yeah.
He instantly protested, Pollard did, saying that he would shoot the first man who touched Owen, and he offered to go in his place. But Owen Coffin, he protested. And heroically, he said, quote, "No, I like my lot as well as any other." End quote.
He's a good man.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
a
boy.
heroic thing to say.
All
Honestly, That's a
right.
heroic thing to do.
I was going to say,
The
it's like,
opposite of my thing.
oh, he's 17. He was super young, but I think that's probably like the median age.
Yeah. So they cast the lots again to decide who was going to shoot young Owen Coffin.
Nobody wanted dibs?
No. Turns out it was Owen's best friend, Charles Ramsdell, the man who had suggested casting lots in the first place. Think about that, you guys. Think about saying, I think we need to cast lots, and then your best friend gets it, and then you have to kill him. Because of your suggestion.
Yeah.
Who
Think about
directed
what
this,
that does
Kubrick?
it
Like,
to you. Yeah. It's
Guys,
nuts.
God has a plan.
He does work in mysterious ways.
Yeah. This is very mysterious.
Yeah, his plan is to fuck with this group of people.
He's like, these guys are going to be miserable, but later on, some guys on a podcast are going to think it's really funny.
Only because of our jokes.
Yeah.
It's not because of the story.
The
I don't
pain
think the
isn't funny.
story's funny.
Not at all.
We're making it approachable, Tyler.
Yeah, I know.
That's like the
You
main
know?
thing.
Yeah.
And if
that's
you
the whole
like
point.
it, you can get out.
Remember, he's been on vacation for the past month. We need to
Taking
get
it
back into the
easy.
swing of things.
Putting his feet up, drinking Mai Tais on a beach.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're doing. I haven't
Listening to
listened to
Jimmy Buffett or some shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what it's like taking care of a child. But anyway, so Ramsdell shot Coffin, and the remaining 3 men, Ramsdell, Pollard, and Barzillai Ray, which in Hebrew means iron-hearted or made of iron,
Can't
they
wait till he
cannibalized.
dies. Because that heart's going to be tough to chew.
But there's so much courage in that heart.
Yeah.
Enough that you could run home on the water.
Well, on February 11th, Barzillai Ray laid down and told his compatriots that he was going to die. He covered himself in a sheet, and he died.
You can just do that? Be like, fuck this.
He was done. Honestly, in that state, when you're starving like that, and
I think it takes
late,
a good amount of will to live at that point.
It does.
Dude.
It takes more will to live than it does to die.
I would have done what fucking Reichdahl here did too.
Reichdahl?
Yeah, the superintendent
Ramsdell?
of Washington State.
Okay.
Okay, so Brazilian Ray gave up and
Brazilian Ray.
and died.
Yeah, so Pollard and Ramsdell had no choice but to cannibalize him too.
Okay, that's where the Ramsdell. Okay, I'm getting it.
His name sounded like just.
And then there's Brazilian Ray, who wasn't from Brazil, but he was waxed from front to back, and that's why they called him that.
Jeez.
Like, how did it say so smooth even out on the water? He's like, shh, that's my secret.
That's old biblical names, is what that is. That's these kind of salt of the earth people.
It's before it was just, hey, you're either Mike,
No, that's 20th century.
or you
stuff.
James.
Some of those, David. James isn't that biblical?
Yeah.
James?
Oh yeah. Yep.
The King James
Billy?
version. Billy!
Billy! William. Anyway, on February 18th, on Chase's boat, after they had run out of food for 3 days, before all hope of rescue was lost, they spotted a ship on the horizon. They did their best and weakly tried to row for the passing ship. And it was the Indian, a British vessel. And they found the men, and they took the 3 emaciated men, Owen Chase, Benjamin Lawrence, he was the guy that clenched the nails and all that, and the young cabin boy, Thomas Nickerson. They took them, and they took them back to Valparaiso to recover. So they were rescued.
They lucked
They're
out.
like, I hope the other guys are doing as good as we are.
Yeah.
Smash cut too.
Yeah.
Since the sinking of the Essex, they had been stranded on the water for 89 days.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine.
But when they get back, they're going to be able to wear anything and look so good on that runway.
Benjamin Lawrence actually he took these frayed pieces of rope and he just sort of like twined them together, and he did it kind of like every day. Mm-hmm. And in the Nantucket, it's like a Nantucket Historical Society museum or something like that. They have the original piece of rope that he twined together.
Oh, really?
And underneath it, it says like they were in the boats for this long and how awful it was.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's one of the only things that we have artifacts from this voyage.
Because
crazy.
Homie was so bored that he decided to...
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
seriously. On February 23rd, the vessel, the Dauphin, sighted a small whaleboat floating in the distance. And when they pulled up alongside of it, they saw 2 skeletal, sunburnt men pocked with salt boils. And it's said that they were so delirious and disassociative that they didn't see the boat and became surprised and afraid of their rescuers.
Jesus.
Wow.
They went through days of dreaming about dead loved ones, of being in restaurants, and just before they get to eat, they wake up. And like things like that, like days of just delirium.
Right.
Yeah.
Days and days and days. This ship to them must have looked like a figment of their imagination.
Well, they were probably completely delirious and confused.
Totally. And it is also said that the crew of the Dolphin saw two men in a boat, in this whale boat, sucking the marrow from the bones that littered the inside of the boat.
So basically, the Dolphin came across two golems.
Yeah.
From Lord of the Rings.
But there's like skeletons in the boat.
Right.
And they're sucking the marrow out of the bones. And they're like, ugh, you know, and like...
A man's gotta eat.
They're like, sup, how's it going? Don't worry about us, we're good.
We're good, you can move on.
It's probably best, it's probably best you guys can just keep on going.
They're pretending that they're stormtroopers. Move along!
Yeah.
Either that or they're like, hey, babes on there.
Licks them with no saliva. Because another thing is like their thirst got so much that they lost the power to speak. They lost the power for their bowels to move or anything like that. Their body was shutting down. Their insides were drying up, basically.
Gee.
They cry blood because when...
like that James Bond villain.
Yeah, because what happens is when your body's all out of liquid, certain things it tries to prioritize over others. So one of them is your eyes. And so your body starts hemorrhaging on the inside, and your eyes fill with blood rather than tears because you don't have any tears.
So it's trying to save your eyes?
Yeah.
Well,
so you're crying
you
blood.
turn into a Komodo dragon.
Yeah, you turn into something.
Cool.
I would hate to get starved so much that I went blind.
Yeah, and oh god, so much that your intestines dry up while you're alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that's what happened to these other men too.
So, I take it they didn't pick those dudes up, right? They just...
No, they did. When Pollard and Ramsdell were brought aboard, they were stuffing their pockets with like finger bones and bones of their dead crewmen. Because they were still in a wrong frame of mind. Yeah. They didn't really totally realize that they were being rescued. Yeah. So they were saving bones to eat later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to keep later. Because they were their best friends, you know, that they had to eat. Yeah. And everyone, of course, on board of the Dolphin was completely taken aback by this. Like, oh, that's dark.
Yeah.
You know. And yeah, they rested on the ship and whatnot. And actually, Pollard, I think with him, it was once they gave him water, he kind of like came to, and he instantly described what happened to them, to like the commanding officers of the Dolphin, and then instantly like collapsed. And it almost killed him to basically recount the story when he did. Mm-hmm. He needed way more time to rejuvenate, to recover after this whole thing, more so than anyone else did. And a lot of people say it's because of this sort of moment where he recounted the story to them.
Like the very calories to tell the story.
Well, and the thing is, there was a study that soldiers in war can only mentally function so well until 70% of their crew is killed. Mm-hmm. And once 70% of their crew is killed, they can no longer function in a war zone.
Interesting.
Mentally. And they had 7 on board, and 2 survived. Fuck. So you can that it gives you a window into the psychological state of these men.
That's a fucked up and interesting study.
Yeah.
To be like, this is how far a man can have his whole group all die out before they lose their mind.
But both of they both like recuperated and had to go back and be like, I ate him.
So let's get to that.
Okay.
Let's get into that. So Pollard, he had to recoup in Valparaiso longer than any of the other men. And a boat named the Surrey was actually dispatched to Duchy Island to find the 3 castaways, because of course they told him about the 3 castaways. Now, when the Surrey arrived at Duchy Island, they found it littered with eggs from seabirds, and it was impossible to walk over them without stepping on the eggs. So they decided, and rightly so, that no one had been on Duchy Island for a very, very, very long time. So, luckily, the captain of the Surrey confused, went back to his charts and studied them again.
Mm-hmm.
He realized
Different island.
something that Pollard and his men were unaware of, because it was hard for them to tell longitude. That there was another island not far away from Duchy, nearly the same latitude, named Henderson Island.
No shit.
With the hair.
That's
with
where
Harry.
they actually were. If they hadn't have checked, wouldn't have known.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Doing the extra work.
Yeah. And on a lot of the charts and maps, these islands were confused, and they were written down wrong. You wouldn't know unless you had been out there and you kind of made the connection.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, this captain made the connection.
So
You know what I
did he
mean?
go to Henderson and find the guys?
He went to Henderson Island, where he found 3 men, and they were eating birds and eggs.
Like, hey, how's it going?
Well, they were very emaciated.
Yeah.
It wasn't looking good for them. But the thing is they could have lasted maybe another month there before it was all done for them. All donezo for them. But they didn't have to resort to cannibalism.
They had all those birds and eggs.
But one thing that they did have that was keeping them going, I think, is for the months that they were there, they had found a cave. And inside the cave were several skeletons. And they were laid next to each other. And one of the skeletons was a 5-year-old child. They were unidentified castaways. And they were like, if we don't play our cards right, this could be us.
Right.
So there was another group of
There
castaways
was another group
before that didn't
before
make,
them
didn't
that
make
did
it.
not make it. Yes, exactly.
They're like, I'm vegetarian.
It kept them going. One of the men, when they found the boat, he couldn't tell his friends. He was too excited.
Yeah.
The boat had a hard time coming into the island because of all the coral, and it was gonna kind of turn back. One of them straight up swam across the sharp ass coral to the boat, and climbed up on top of it and was like, "All right, we're rescued." And they're like, "All right, but we're gonna come back and get your other guys." And he's like, "No, you're not. No, you're not." And they're like, "Well, what are we gonna do?" And he tied a rope around himself. And he swam back.
Jesus fuck.
And he towed his other friends across the rope that he had back to the boat.
Wow.
And saved all of their lives.
And the sensation of doing something that's going to cut up your body so much, but be so satisfying, he was like, I think we should make a breakfast cereal about that is nautically themed. And that is where Captain Crunch came from.
Jesus Christ.
That was good. I didn't know where you were going. I thought it was going to be a sexual thing.
I was satisfied with the ending of that joke.
I thought it was going to be you just come so hard, cut yourself up on coral or something. I was like, okay.
Here we go.
No, that was really good.
I'd
that
say
was
it's
very
40% gross sex stuff and 60% food.
That's true. That's all right.
Whatever.
I thought it was going to be the 40% gross sex stuff.
Fair enough.
So the 8 survivors were actually all reunited in Valparaiso. 4 of them sailed back to Nantucket while Pollard regained his health. And yeah, they all eventually filtered out back to Nantucket. And the thing is the legend of what happened to the Essex kind of beat them there. It beat them there when Owen Chase was found. So they didn't know that Pollard was alive or that these other men were alive. So when the news first hit Nantucket, they only knew that Owen Chase, Benjamin Lawrence, and Thomas Nickerson were alive. They didn't know that Charles Ramsdell and Captain Pollard were also alive. So or the other 3 castaways. So when they showed up, they were met with oh fuck, you guys are alive, but
You look like you're staring at a ghost.
yeah.
I very much think I might be.
Yeah. And actually, a collection was taken up in Valparaiso to pay the men. And some of them, only looking at $150 for the whole trip, they made more in that collection than they would have made on the trip. But, Owen Chase and Captain Pollard didn't make nearly as much as what they were.
I see this as an absolute win.
Yeah. And Pollard was like, I know this sounds crazy, but do you guys give payment in human bones?
Yeah.
With the marrow intact? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. Marrow's not intact.
What is the exchange rate between human finger bones?
Yeah.
And I don't know, doubloons?
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 Pieces of 8.
Pieces of 8.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people on Nantucket were pretty understanding about the story. They knew that casting lots was an unfortunate reality. Of being stranded at sea like that. They knew it was ugly and, you know, that's bad and everything, but they welcomed him and everyone else back as heroes, basically. Sure. There's that movie called In the Heart of the Sea, which is named after the main source that I read, In the Heart of the Sea. And they make it seem like all of these survivors don't want to talk about what they did, and it's shameful, and they'd never tell anyone. No, not at all.
Wait to
not
talk
at all.
about
Everyone knew about it by the time they got there.
In the Heart of the Sea is this event?
This is In the Heart of the Sea.
Tom Holland is in that movie.
Does he play?
I haven't seen it, but now I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, I have not seen that movie. I know what's his name. Thor plays Owen Chase.
Oh, okay, that's who plays Owen Chase.
Yep, which is pretty good casting.
The whole time I just imagine Owen Chase being a really handsome dude.
Fucking
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth is
you
a
can't really
handsome dude.
That much more handsome.
Not only is he the most handsome Hemsworth, but he's probably one of the most handsome men I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've not even heard of this movie.
And is it
Chris Hemsworth, Tom Holland, Cillian Murphy?
Yeah,
it's Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, he plays old Thomas Nickerson.
Oh, yeah.
It's by Ron Howard. Yeah. Isn't it a Ron Howard film?
Yeah, it's a Ron Howard
film.
It
is?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway.
43 on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's
only
not at all
is
accurate.
The reviews.
I will tell you that. It's not at all accurate, but it might be a fine movie. But the crux of it is it's old Thomas Nickerson telling a young Herman Melville the story. Did not happen. And also that Herman Melville took all the bad parts, all the cannibal stuff out, and that's why Moby Dick ends the way it does.
Yeah.
Right. But it's none
so
of
like
that's
Moby
true.
Dick is the version that he told kind of thing.
None of that's fucking true.
Well, how would we know about cannibalism?
Well, I'll get to that. But that's the legend is that he respectfully took out all of that. At least that's the way the movie portrays it. I haven't seen the movie, but that's how the movie portrays it. It's stupid as fuck. Yeah, Ben Whishaw plays Herman Melville.
So what we know for a fact is that everyone knows about the horrifying deeds that have occurred, and every Becky, Susan, Sarah,
Tom, Dick, and Harry,
and Joni are ready to start kissing these heroes on the mouth.
They finally got their babes.
When Pollard returned to Nantucket, it was like seeing a ghost, really, and it was like Captain Ahab, honestly, and not a lot of people said anything. They were really quiet as he walked. It was one of those movie moments where he walked straight through town and everyone got out of his way. And he walked straight to, like, his wife and embraced his wife.
And one guy started clapping, and then nobody else did. And he was like, come on, I thought we were going to do the thing.
Well, Owen Chase found out he had a kid.
It was weird because the kid was black, but,
No. It was actually his kid.
Yeah.
He actually ran into that problem later with his third wife.
Oh.
Yeah. He was at sea for 18 months and his wife had a kid. He got a divorce. Anyway.
But it doesn't seem like a problem for her.
But Pollard, he went to his aunt's house because he had to tell in person his aunt what had happened to her son. And
remember that thing I said? I ate him.
I kept him safe in my tummy.
She never forgave him.
You want some piggy bones?
Get that.
Yeah, I get that. Like, I get that it was a necessity, and I get Owen Coffin's bravery, but I mean, you ate her son, dude. You ate her son. How do you possibly forgive that?
Where could he be more safe than in my tummy time?
Yeah. And then I pooped him out.
Yeah.
In diuretzi over the side
and
of the
here
boat.
it is in a bucket. So here's your son.
Yeah. Which is so fucking dark. It wasn't even like a solid log.
I mean, what do you say?
Like that chapter with Tiger.
Like that would have made it better.
Yeah.
Just bundles of
that's
fucking
so
shit.
fucked up. That's so fucked up.
Oh man, it's like, do you say he wasn't even that good, or do you say it was,
or do you say he was delicious?
Yeah, it was the best
If
thing
it
I've
makes
ever
you
had.
feel better, he was delicious.
Or, yeah, he tastes like shit. Yeah. Think about it. Like, both ways, that's still pretty bad.
I think you don't mention
mention it. How he tasted.
He could have used some salt.
Yeah.
Luckily, we had a whole ocean of salt.
Yep.
If anything, I wish we were near the pepper sea.
The pepper.
The pepper sea. The Black Sea.
Just get a scoop of that.
Yeah.
That's all they really needed. That's so fucked up, you guys.
Could have used pepper, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Now, all of the men, contrary to what you might think, went back to whaling. Again,
I mean, it's
only
a lot
thing
of
they
fun.
can really do. But they all went back to whaling.
What are they gonna do? Be a bunch of farmers and have everyone want to kick their ass every day for being such pussies?
Yeah.
Live in a white lighthouse. With,
there you go.
Another weirdo.
Yeah. And even Pollard, with a show of great respect and confidence, was given command of another vessel called the Two Brothers. The very same ship that brought him back to Nantucket. And the captain, who was very impressed by Pollard, he requested that Pollard take over his command. So that's like the ultimate vote of confidence, is to be like, dude, it's okay. You know, not your fault, man. Not your fault. You can do this. Yeah. You know.
And I was going to put you in command of my other ship, the Two Cousins, but I feel like that'd be a poor taste.
She was a mighty fine ship, the Two Brothers.
Even some of his old crew joined up with Pollard on this boat, too. Thomas Nickerson was on this boat. So that's like, Captain, I still trust you. Yeah. You know.
I feel like they're like, it can't get any worse than the last time.
Well, and that was
on wood.
Well, that was an absolute thing that they thought. Everyone thought
like
that lightning can't strike once, you know, or twice. Lightning can't strike twice the same place.
Lightning doesn't strike once.
You fool me once.
Yeah.
I think we've made this joke.
No, I know. It's my favorite.
Bushism.
It's my favorite presidential quote of all time.
Yeah, me too. But in Pollard's case, it did strike twice.
God damn it.
God,
man.
Damn it.
Yeah. The Two Brothers, while they were off the coast of Hawaii during a squall, they hit some coral, and the Two Brothers went down. For a day, they were floating out in the ocean again, and like Pollard and Nickerson were like, "Fuck!
It's happening again!"
Yeah, but they were rescued, and Pollard was completely despondent when he was rescued, and they were asking him, and Pollard said, "There's no way that anyone's ever going to trust me with a ship ever again." And he was right. He was declared a Jonah from the book Jonah and the Whale.
I'm vaguely familiar.
Basically meaning that you were an unlucky person to have on sea.
Bit of an albatross.
At sea. Yeah, you were unlucky to have.
Can I ask something about him? Mm-hmm. Did he, like, kill Poseidon's son or something?
Yeah, right?
What the fuck?
Yeah, seriously. He went on, like, another merchant voyage, but he didn't like the work. He actually ended his life working as a night watchman, which is the lowest rung of Nantucket society that there was, being a night watchman in Nantucket.
He was the Maytag man. Sleeping next to a dryer or whatever.
He's just a guy walking around with a lantern.
Yeah.
That's what he is. He's a night watchman.
Oh,
and his
best thing about Nantucket is the creepy old cannibal walking around with a lantern at nighttime.
It's true. It's spooky, isn't it?
Like, yeah, that guy's literally eating people, and we got him walking around at nighttime with a fucking lantern. I imagine a giant
beard. Is everyone inside?
Giant beard at this point,
no
and
bones out here.
He looks like the Hermit, like, tarot card.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what I was
like
thinking.
cover of the Zeppelin album. Yeah. Now, Owen Chase, he went on to be one of the most respected whaling men in Nantucket history, going on several lucrative voyages. He actually did really well for himself, but he was widowed several times. He divorced one wife because he found out that he had been at sea for 18 months and she had a kid, so he divorced her. Most of his kids grew up without him. Like, his 2-year-old that his wife died giving childbirth, when he showed up, his 2-year-old had no memory of his mother or his father.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it went.
As was the style at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing was about Owen Chase, he was the first one to write a book about this whole thing, and it was from his own point of view. So you didn't get Pollard's side of the story, you didn't get anyone else's side of the story, and a lot of people resented him for it, especially in Nantucket, because they didn't want somebody cashing in on the suffering of others.
Sure.
But there was another thing about Nantucket is that they prided themselves so much about whalers and like the myths and legends of being a whaler and how respectable of a job it was. So to highlight a failure of their pride and glory, their whalemen, is something they did not like talking about. So he was a little ostracized for writing that book, but it was a copy of that book that Owen Chase's son gave Herman Melville that inspired at least a little bit Moby Dick while they were whaling together. Owen Chase, though, unfortunately, he started to lose his mental faculties, and a lot of people thought, and probably for good reason because of what he did, that it had something to do with this, the Essex disaster. What he did is he started hiding food in the attic. He started having these massive headaches, and he would scream, "My head, my head, my head." And he was institutionalized for 8 years before he died. Just, yeah, incredibly tragic. You know, a pillar of the whaling legend was Owen Chase, and this is how he
Probably
he
had a
went.
brain tumor.
He could have.
The dude just needed some ibuprofen.
But Owen Chase never got, none of these guys ever really got the opportunity to come to terms or come to peace with what had happened out there. And I think it had festered inside, especially someone like Owen Chase, so much that when it did finally came out, it manifests in mania. In psychological disorder.
He probably shouldn't have told that kid to climb inside his head and get the spermaceti out.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, they all clearly had massive PTSD long before we understood what that meant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that understanding is recent.
Yeah. So, on March 8th, 1869, at the age of 71, Owen Chase died. Now, after a long career as a whaler, the cabin boy Thomas Nickerson finally wrote down his experience in the 1860s, when he was already an older man. Now, Nickerson died in 1883 at the age of 77. And the manuscript that he wrote, along with a professional writer, changed hands several times before it was forgotten in a trunk for many years. The contents of the trunk were finally examined in 1960, when the manuscript was finally found and donated to the Nantucket Historical Association. The name of the book, The Loss of the Ship Essex Sunk by a Whale and the Ordeal of the Crew in Open Boats by Thomas Nickerson, was finally published in 1984.
That's a bit of a mouthful.
A century after he died.
That's what I was thinking too.
Also, really got to work on getting that name down to something that, you know...
You could say the same with Les.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
What is this,
old-timey names.
Real quick, earlier we were saying that there's a person who would have been played by the late Anton Yelchin, and he goes Tom Holland. Which character was that?
Thomas Nickerson.
No fucking way.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's played. We didn't know that, right?
Nope.
I did not know
no
that.
idea.
That's fucking crazy.
He is played by Tom Holland?
Yeah.
Well,
Jesus
there you
Christ.
go. Hollywood read my mind. And actually, Nantucket, later on, about the time that Nickerson and all these guys are dying, one of the castaways, actually, he found Jesus. And he died on some island trying to do the Lord's work.
Oh, like John who wrote Revelation.
Nantucket eventually fell out of favor as a whaling port because it had a very shallow bay, and there's actually a sandbar in front of it that some of the larger boats had a really difficult time getting over, and it's actually just as dangerous to get over that sandbar as it is for the rest of the trip. So whaling ships started going to New Bedford, and that became like the
new whaling
port.
Yeah,
and it kind of left Nantucket as a ghost town for a long time.
Until they invented the Nantucket Nectars iced tea. Several.
Oh, those are so good.
Yeah, those are pretty good.
They have tourism now. Yeah. That is their major industry.
Well,
now.
I was going to say that actually Nantucket really didn't get that popular until they built that airport that the Hackett brothers took control of Sandpiper Air, made popular in the show Wings.
Oh.
Just saying.
Wings.
Which is a documentary.
It's got
hit
Monk
TV
on
show.
there.
It's got the Monk.
Dude, I watched so much Wings back in the day. You
got
got
the Monk.
Steven Weber.
It's got Daily Show guy.
You got Sandman.
Jon Stewart?
Yeah.
No.
Was he on Wings?
No.
Wasn't he on Wings?
No.
You're thinking of Stephen Webster. He was the bad
Steven
Jack.
Weber.
He looks like John. He's the poor man's Jon Stewart.
They got Tim Daly. Daily Show. Maybe that's what you got.
Okay.
I don't
well.
fucking know. I didn't watch Wings.
Look,
I
all I
watched
know
Wings.
is you guys keep talking about wings, and I'm salivating right now.
I would like
I
some
want
wings.
some wings.
We
right
need
I
to
want
go
the
to
tin
Buffalo.
hat. I want the Tin Hats wings.
Oh, Buffalo
But Tin Hat's
Wild
not open.
Wings.
Yeah. Open Tin Hat.
Yeah.
You got
Anyway,
Thomas Hayden
Let's go
Church.
get some wings, guys.
Anyway, that is the story of the Essex, the last spooky story we have for you this season.
It's pretty spooky.
I hope you guys enjoyed.
Especially the cannibalism.
Yeah.
Should we talk a little bit
Super
about
fun.
what November and December are going to be looking like for our viewers at home?
Yes, I mentioned this early on, but what we're going to do, just to sort of separate the season out, we're going to do one episode in November and one episode in December. And there will be our holiday episodes. And what this does, it'll give us a chance, it'll give me a chance, we'll get some stuff done behind the scenes. It'll give me a chance to read a few books and kind of get caught up with some research and whatnot, and get a couple of stories in the pipeline that you've been asking for, that you want to hear. So I'm just going to do a bunch of research during this time, and we're going to do Season 2 starting in January, back to our bi-weekly schedule.
Right.
So that's how that's going to work.
So we hit you with a spooky. Then you're going to get
Two big ones.
two big ones. One's going to be heavily focused on turkey and mashed potatoes. The next one's going to be focused on the guy
Christmas
who...
ham.
Yeah, Christmas ham.
Ham in general.
Yeah.
Rum ham.
General Ham.
Yes, General Ham.
General Ham Sterling.
It's going to be about John Ham.
It's gonna be. We're really just gonna read his Wikipedia.
Yeah.
We're gonna phone it in for the next two. We're just gonna read Wikipedia articles to you.
Yeah.
That's why you tune into us, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to be doing other stuff. We are going to be doing the Discord party pals for all of our Patreon subscribers. Wow, that was a mouthful.
Yeah. We don't know how frequent those are gonna be, but every time we tell you that one is going to happen, we will
gonna
let you
happen.
know a week in advance that it's going to happen, so you can open up your schedule and come hang out with us.
Yeah. So you know when to call out from work, so you can hang out with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, next day, I mean.
Call your work. Tell them that you
Well, it
have.
depends if you work the late shift or the early
Oh,
shift.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Just tell them you got diarrhea from eating human bones.
And
Yeah.
the way to get on one of these Discord things, Zach, would be to
Subscribe to the Patreon. All 3 tiers that we have will get you access to the Discord. However, tier 1 is just access to the Discord. We kind of view it like you're giving us a tip. Like, hey, thanks so much. That's very nice. Here's $1.
yeah.
We really appreciate that. We appreciate all of our listeners, but in particular, our
And-
Patreon pals really, like, you guys have no idea how much this means to us.
It means a ridiculous amount.
So at tier 1, it's just $1. You get access to the Discord.
And Discord, it's sort of like a social media thing. I don't know if everyone knows about it, but what I like to think of it as is it's a place. It's an app you download on your phone, and when you go inside these, we have rooms for different things, and when you go in there, it's basically like going to the same bar we're at.
Yeah.
Basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole point about us having this Discord is to build a sense of community, and we want you guys to get to know us better. We want to
get to you better.
We want to get to know you guys better. Yeah. So, at $5 you get that, and you get a personalized shout out. At $10 you get all of the above, and you get access to exclusive content. Our first exclusive content will be released on Halloween, which will be our EP of music from the show or inspired by the show, written by yours truly.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of it today.
Yeah.
At least me and Krista. I don't know if
I
Tyler
did. Yeah, I really
but
dug
it
it.
sounds awesome. It's really cool, guys.
Yeah.
throw in $10 or more, and you get that shit, and you'll get access to every other exclusive bonus content that we are in the middle of
yeah,
working
more
on.
stuff down the line when we actually get around to it.
Speaking of shoutouts, do we have a shoutout this week?
Yeah,
sure
so there's two things. Number one, Jerry did a little whoopsie last week.
Yes, I did. This is something I found out today. Is that Colby is actually a woman, and I'm so sorry for assuming gender. Come on. My name can also be used for anything other than male. Jerry, right? So...
Pretty much everybody here except for Zach.
Yeah.
Have unisex names.
Chris, Tyler,
I'm just
Jerry.
saying, I apologize, Colby. Again, thank you for your very kind words. I just want to set the record straight on the show. Colby is a woman, and I'm very sorry for misgendering you. And I won't assume anymore with
So lesson learned. Then.
Lesson learned.
And thanks for listening.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for listening so much.
Thanks for reaching out.
We had a good conversation about it. I don't think they're mad about it, so we got lucky,
Well, I think also the reason why Jerry wants to make this apology is because that review was basically all about him and how much he loves him.
No.
As a storyteller.
It just made me weep. And
He is a good storyteller.
Whenever I'm feeling down, I read it.
Well, that's weird.
Because it makes me feel better.
So you read it every day.
I kind of have to.
What else do we got? Got?
All right. We also, speaking of Patreon, I would like to welcome into the folds of our Patreon pals, Mr. Hugo.
Hugo.
Yeah.
Hugo.
He bought us some beer.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hugo.
And we look so forward to drinking it.
Thank you so much, dude. That's super badass. We love all of our listeners. We're not saying that we love the Patreon pals more than we love you.
But they're literally supporting us in exchange for a shout out. So you go, Hugo. You
Nice.
go.
Honestly. Yeah.
One thing I want to add that I think is really crazy is apparently Bernie Sanders actually has a sword. We've had an inside joke for a long time about this Bernie.
Since 2016.
Yeah. Like when he was running last time, this idea about like Bernie Sanders complaining about how the 99% or the 1% have 99% of the ceremonial swords. We mentioned that on one of the episodes. Then we saw a Hard Times joke that talked about, and we were like. Talked about him, whoever has more swords than him or something.
Well, it was like I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders
unless another candidate has more swords,
or something like that, and it like all of us were like, what?
That was literally like our joke. Other than the word ceremonial,
We're not saying the Hard Times copied our joke, but we are saying you got some funny, smart, talented, handsome writers at the Hard Times.
Oh, so handsome. Or beautiful, depending on how you choose.
None of us write for the Hard Times, I just want to say.
Yeah. I don't even know anyone who writes for the Hard Times. But apparently, according to my favorite publication, the New York Post, it's a fucking rag.
Yeah.
Created by Alexander Hamilton, who I'm apparently related to. Anyway.
It's a shell.
Humble brag.
Yeah. Well, I think he just used it to talk shit about Aaron Burr, but whatever. Apparently Bernie Sanders does have a sword that was given to him by Ross Perot. We did not know that.
We did not know that.
That is not where the joke came from.
No,
that is a mini
not.
history fun fact for you.
Yeah. I just...
we made that joke way back in 2016 when we weren't even doing the podcast. It shows up in one episode. I don't even know which episode.
I know, it's one of the Mexican Revolution episodes. We mentioned his ceremonial swords, like... It's like the size thing. It just got mentioned a whole bunch in one episode.
Yeah.
Though that has permeated a little bit.
I do have a very short review I want to read.
Yeah,
real quick. This is from Foxskid. That's the name that they have on Apple Podcasts here.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "They'll make you laugh. You'll get a few good factoids and stories on the way. Shorter episodes," which is nice, which this one's not going to be a shorter episode. Sorry, guy. "Easy to finish a story in a day. I'd recommend it to anybody." That's fantastic.
That is fantastic.
That's fantastic.
Thanks a lot, Fox.
I find the
Absolutely.
shorter episodes thing to be, depending on what other podcast you listen to.
Well, yes.
Because there's some that like 4 or 5 episodes.
Us compared to hardcore history, absolutely. Ours are shorter. But I want you to all keep in mind, you can always pause, and it has a 15-second back button, so you can kind of click it a couple of times and get your place back. Mm-hmm. It's not hard to stop and start again. Just saying. Yes. Just saying. Just throwing it out there.
You can make a one-parter into a two-parter on your own.
Or a six-parter. Who knows? I don't know how your day goes.
Yeah. And for folks who just so happen to be listening to the show for the first time today, how would they get a hold of us to leave reviews and so on and so forth?
Well, they could always DM us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're very active on there. We will see it. There's also our email address, historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Again, we love hearing from you. We love hearing from you. Even if you're just saying hello, it's great. Or if you want to suggest another episode. At this point, we have kind of a backlog.
Oh, yeah,
we're trying to get through them. But if you want to throw out an episode, hey, we will take it and we will put it into our spreadsheet of episodes to do. And it's getting longer, but it's there.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Again, I am Christopher Whedon, History Boy, ready to go to bed.
This is Tyler Armentrout. I am a history boy and a history father, and my eyes are open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the truth.
Yeah. I'm starting to see it. Yeah. Those Fry Kids.
I am Zach the Wino Mech, also a history boy, and am not looking forward to getting back out on the open road.
I thought that was your whole life.
Not anymore.
I don't like my life. Oh. You should know this by now.
There's a reason why the next two episodes we're going to him.
So okay, whatever. He does it, and he hates it, but he deals with it like a true American.
Yeah.
I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. Thank you again so much for listening to us. Tell your friends, subscribe, do whatever you got to do wherever you can. It really helps us out. Leave us a review. Maybe I'll read it. Who knows?
He's gonna read it.
Maybe. Unless if you want to give us a shitty review, then you're not trying to help us. That's fine, because we are going to have a good time mocking you behind your back, and maybe even in public. And you might not be privy to that, but it's going to be really funny if you do, and it will be at your expense. I'm just letting you know.
We're going to start up our own Twitter handles just to make fun of you.
No, it'll be on our page. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see all of everyone else laugh at you. It'll be great. Don't do that unless you want that to happen to you for some sick reason. You're some sort of sadomasochist or something like that.
You're
my business.
People to do that.
I know, but not my business. Don't do it to us. Do it to somebody else, not to us. We will mock you heavily though. Anyway, leave us a 5-star review. That would be so great. It would help us out a lot. And yeah, join us. Talk to us. We want to talk to you. And thank you again so much.
Love you. Bye.
You